Qin Lai had always thought of Thamer as a deadly threat since the day they met. Back when the Flaming Sun Abyss had just been an origin world, Thamer was already murking the waters and setting the other three transcendent races against one another. When the dust settled, he would then show up and claim the ultimate reward for himself. After Thamer and Octon had joined hands, they had nearly succeeded in killing Indigo and robbing the Origin Crystal for themselves. If he hadn't been luckier that day, the Origin Crystal might have been transformed into one of Thamer's deadly weapons already. At the end of that expedition, he had tried to kill Thamer and Octon after his successful fusion with the Origin Crystal. However, his attempt had been thwarted to his surprise. Thamer and Octon had escaped into Octon's secret arts black hole at the time, randomly thrown to the outer space. Qin Lai had thought that he would never see them both again, and that they were both dead for sure. But not only did they turn up in the Flaming Sun Abyss, they had both broken through to rank 8 Bloodline. This meant that they had become a great thorn in his side once more. Thamer was a cunning and deceitful person. He was much harder to deal with compared to the rank 8 Abyss Devils. As long as Thamer was still alive, he couldn't feel settled even as he fought against the rank 8 Abyss Devils. It was because he had no idea what kind of cunning ploy Thamer would pull on him while he was still around. That was why he thought that killing Thamer was his foremost priority right now. When the Abyss Devils saw that Qin Lai had set his sights on Thamer, they chose to stand still or move away from the Soul Race clansmen. They had willingly opened up an area for Qin Lai to do battle with Thamer. "Hey, I'm just here to be an observer, you know? I'm no Abyss Devil, and I can't take over the Flaming Sun Abyss even if I somehow manage to kill him." Thamer couldn't help but complain when he saw the Abyss Devils opening up a wide space for him and Qin Lai. "I'm just here to watch the show. I've no interest in his heart. You all can't possibly think that I'm a threat, do you?" He turned to look at a rank 8 Abyss Devil. The Abyss Devil he was looking at hadn't devilized. He looked just like a human being, except he had purple hair, purple eyes, and a broader body than normal. "I don't care if you're interested or not. I just want to see you die first." The Abyss Devil chuckled strangely. "I see," Thamer said quietly. "Sizz." Suddenly, a shiny beam of light that looked like a crystalline thread flew out of Thamer's body. The beam of light instantly struck the chuckling Abyss Devil, inciting a terrible scream as the latter's body started rotting and melting all of a sudden. "That's..." Cohen of Black Bog Abyss frowned as the Abyss Devil fell apart due to the strange light. "The light of annihilation. That's the light of annihilation." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Thamer let out a shrill battle cry. An even more strange light that looked like icy debris started flying towards all nearby living beings. The Abyss Devils, Betty and Indigo were all within his attack range. Octon was the only one who wasn't attacked by the strange beams of light. Everyone else had one or more light beams flying towards them. The light of annihilation. Betty of the spirit race had frowned as well. For the first time, she had withdrawn her smile and taken on a more serious face. Grabbing Indigo by the arm, she pulled her away and moved to the side regardless of Indigo's protest. For some reason, the space she moved through was filled with tiny spatial patterns. It was almost as if she had been passing through different layers of space all the time. When the light of annihilation rushed toward her and Indigo, it was kept away by the strange spatial patterns. It failed to touch even the corner of her sleeve. ZZZT. But unlike Indigo, the rest of the Abyss Devils weren't so lucky. A lot of them were caught by the strange light beams. Even the tiniest brush against the light beam was enough to draw painful screams from the Abyss Devils. Their bodies were slowly but surely crumbling under its power. "How does it feel?" Thamer asked ominously. The Abyss Devil who had spoken to him earlier was already melting down to his very bones. It was obvious that he wasn't going to live for long. While speaking, Thamer continued to spread out his soul thoughts and control the beams of light remotely. Every light beam had a wisp of soul thought attached to it. It was how he was able to control them all at once. The controlled light beams swam like agile snakes in the sky and went after the escaping Abyss Devils. The thickest among the light beams were sent flying straight towards Qin Lai. The light of annihilation. Qin Lai didn't try to dodge out of the way. He simply waited for it to come as the whirlpool surrounding him slowed to a stop. All the while, he was staring at Thamer coldly as a sneer peeked out of the corner of his lips. Swoosh! Suddenly, Qianlai fired a mental soul thread straight towards the light of annihilation like it was a sharp blade. The light of annihilation rushing towards him suddenly burned up on the spot. Thamer suddenly let out a dull groan as his face became distorted. His eyes were filled with disbelief. How did you? Somehow, Qianlai had managed to cut apart all the soul thoughts inside the light of annihilation with a soul blade. He was a soul race clansman. Even if the body he was possessing was destroyed, it wouldn't damage his true self in any way. A soul race clansman could only be hurt when the damage was done directly to their soul. Just now, Qianlai had attacked his soul consciousness instead of the body he was possessing. Moreover, he had eliminated the threads of his consciousness while they were still inside the light of annihilation. It made no sense. After Qianlai had destroyed the soul thoughts that were attached to the light of annihilation, the beam froze in place like crystalline ribbons suspended in the air. The light beams were only 5 meters away from Qianlai's whirlpool at this point. Suddenly, Qianlai smiled before a strange light flashed across his eyes. Then, the light of annihilation resumed its motion once more. All the beams of light of annihilation flew towards Qianlai's whirlpool. Thamer's expression had changed yet again. Green flames suddenly flashed across Thamer's purple pupils. He seemed to have realized something while he was staring at Qianlai. He's one of us. At this point, Thamer was 100% certain that Qianlai's soul was that of a soul race clansman. He had to be, considering that he was able to control the light of annihilation and eliminate his soul thought. When he recalled that Qianlai also possessed the soul-suppressing orb, Thamer finally realized that his opponent was neither an abyss devil nor a god race clansman. He was probably a soul race clansman just like him. Octon! Thamer called out in a quiet voice. Whoosh! Octon suddenly appeared next to him in response to his summon. The light of annihilation is useless against him. We have no choice but to kill him here with our current powers, Thamer said with a dark look on his face. Thamer chose not to tell even Octon the truth, that Qianlai was a soul race clansman. It was because he didn't want Octon to spread the news carelessly after learning this secret. You want to send Octon after me? Qianlai grinned. Did you forget that the gift you just delivered to me may be quite deadly to him? The light beams that had entered Qianlai's whirlpool earlier started spinning nimbly after Qianlai started smiling. They seemed to have become one with the whirlpool itself. Octon clearly looked hesitant and irritated as he stared at the light of annihilation. Qianlai simply chuckled strangely at his reaction. Back at the secret realm entrance to the lizard realm, Miao Yitzi had accidentally opened a spatial rift, flooding the battlefield with light of annihilation. At the time, he had used his soul to manipulate the light of annihilation and make a body of pure light out of it. That was why he was able to turn the tables in his fight against the lizard progenitor back then. Moreover, the soul race's memory fragments and partial memories of the spirit of void and chaos had informed about the origin of the light of annihilation. The light of annihilation came from a place called the Sea of Annihilation. It was a mysterious, forbidden ground in Dark Shadow World. Any flesh and blood life form who accidentally fell into a light of annihilation would be melted into nothing in a breath. Therefore, the only life form that could survive the Sea of Annihilation was a being of pure soul like the soul race. Moreover, he had picked up a few ways to control the light of annihilation thanks to the soul race memories. It was rumored that the Imperial Soul Monarch had once gone to the Sea of Annihilation and studied its wonders. That was how the techniques to control the light of annihilation had come to be. His soul inheritance had come from the soul progenitor. The soul progenitor was almost possessed by the Imperial Soul Monarch's first son. This was why the technique to control the light of annihilation could be found in the soul progenitor's soul. Thamer had his own fateful encounters with the light of annihilation. Originally, Thamer had thought that he would make short work of Qianlai in the Flaming Sun Abyss thanks to the mysterious light. Unfortunately for him, he had miscalculated yet again. Qianlai didn't fear the light of annihilation at all. Judging from the way the light of annihilation was circulating inside Qianlai's whirlpool, it was clear that the deadly rays were being controlled by his soul. Octon was planning to attack Qianlai, but he suddenly hesitated when he saw the lively light of annihilation. Meanwhile, more and more abyss devils were being obliterated by the mysterious light. However, Qianlai didn't try to spread out his soul consciousness even further and aid the abyss devils. He simply stared at the scene coolly from where he was. After all, these abyss devils were here to kill him and swallow his abyss devil heart in the first place. They were enemies just like Octon and Thamer. The only person he was worried about was Indigo, but he realized that the girl was safe thanks to Betty and her intricate bloodline. He relaxed completely after seeing that. Yeah. It was at this moment the spirits of void and chaos started cheering happily in his mind. Attention caught. He immediately connected with the tiny spirits and felt their joy washing over him. It was the light of annihilation that had triggered such a reaction. Qianlai was gripped by surprise at the beginning, but he quickly realized that the spirits of void and chaos wished to leave the soul-suppressing orb and consume those light of annihilation for themselves. Back at the entrance to the lizard race's realm, the reason he was able to pick up the origin of the light of annihilation was partially thanks to the memories held by spirits of void and chaos. He knew that they desired the light of annihilation a lot. It seemed like the strange light could improve their bloodline power. That was why they couldn't restrain their excitement every time they sensed the light of annihilation. Qianlai observed the scene in secret. Thamer was still controlling the light of annihilation with his soul and attacking the remaining abyss devils. He was wondering if he should summon the spirits of void and chaos immediately, or wait for a later time. Since the abyss devils were also his enemies, the fact that Thamer was killing them all using the light of annihilation was indirectly a good thing. However, he wasn't sure if the light of annihilation would be used up completely by the time Thamer had killed the rest of the abyss devils. He was aware that the light of annihilation probably contained a special kind of energy that benefited the spirits of void and chaos bloodline. Yeah! As the spirits of void and chaos cried more and more urgently inside his head, Qianlai knew that their excitement had only grown with time. Oh well. In the end, he nodded and gave them permission to fly out. In an instant, 6 rays of colorful light beams exited Qianlai's glabella in the instant. The 6 spirits of void and chaos immediately cheered the moment they had appeared in the flaming sun abyss. Only he could hear their cheers, however. Then, they immediately spread out and flew towards the light of annihilation. Sizzle! Every time the spirits of void and chaos had slipped into a ray of light of annihilation and consumed it, the soul consciousness Thamer had imbued to them would vanish all of a sudden. Not only did the affected beams of light of annihilation suddenly froze in midair, their light also grew dimmer and dimmer. The terrible corrosiveness that was unique to the light of annihilation was clearly weakening after being attacked by the spirits. The abyss devil body Thamer was possessing suddenly shook all over. The green flame dancing in his pupils also swayed violently like a blown candle, looking as if they would be extinguished at any moment. Swoosh! Suddenly, Thamer's soul slipped out of the body as if he couldn't withstand that abnormalities that were wreaking havoc in his body, or the severe damage that had been done to his soul. The wriggling figure of a soul floated above the abyss devil and started radiating strange waves of energy all of a sudden. The abyss devil Thamer had been possessing suddenly exploded after a series of violent shakes. Bloody meat and bones were scattered all over the place. Octon was originally standing quite near to Thamer, but when he saw the Soul Race clansman's strange form, he suddenly moved away from him with clear terror on his face. It looked like he was afraid to get too close to Thamer. After he had walked far away enough from Thamer, his eyes started flashing with uncertainty and thought. It was almost as if he was planning to make a decision that would be disadvantageous towards Thamer. He no longer tried to attack Qianlai either. Rip! Rip! Thanks to the 6 spirits of void and chaos hunting down the light of annihilation left and right, many abyss devils had been saved from the brink of death. Cohen of the Black Bog Abyss was one such survivor. His face looked incredibly dark as he watched the water spirit devouring a ray of corrosive light just 10 meters away from him. Cohen was one of the very few Abyss Devils who had recognized the light of annihilation. He was the one who spoke its name when the beams first made an appearance. The corrosive light of annihilation had most likely come from Dark Shadow World, and it was somewhat similar to the poisonous miasma emitted by the deadly swamps of the Black Bog Abyss. However, the light of annihilation was clearly deadlier. Although Cohen was immune to most type of poisons, he was still afraid of the light of annihilation. Right now, though, the strange beings that had slipped into the light of annihilation had terrified him even more. The strange water spirit was just 10 meters away from him, so he noticed that Thamer's soul thought had been wiped out immediately the moment it had entered the light of annihilation. Even better, the light of annihilation that could dissolve practically all living beings in the world was clearly growing dimmer and dimmer. It seemed like the strange energy that powered the light of annihilation was being devoured by the strange life form bit by bit. In his opinion, that was the strangest scene that he had ever seen. Since Cohen knew a bit about the light of annihilation, he couldn't imagine that a strange life form that could consume the light of annihilation would exist in the universe. It wasn't something that he had thought possible in the past either. Whoosh! After Octon had moved away from Thamer slowly, the spirit race clansman suddenly dashed towards the distance. He was flying towards the abyss passageway. No one could explain why, but it was clear that an unknown terror had seized Octon when the latter saw Thamer's soul departing the body he was possessing and starting to wriggle in the air. Not only did Octon decide to give up on his original goal to kill Qianlai, he had decided to give up the origin crystal and the chance to get his Abyss Devil heart too. He even went so far as to abandon Thamer. No one knew what exactly he was afraid of, not even Qianlai. However, a vague bad feeling was brewing inside Qianlai's heart after he saw Octon's reaction. Why the hurry? Betty giggled suddenly before she flashed away from the ripples of secret spatial patterns surrounding her and Indigo, blocking Octon's way. Betty waved her hand once and created a huge and invisible spatial barrier in an instant. She had acted so fast that Octon ran into the barrier head-on and was bounced back several steps as a result. Then, he yelled furiously at Betty, "What are you trying to do? You're not going anywhere." Betty smiled. Blue veins started popping on Octon's forehead. He said urgently, "Anyone who remains here will soon be dead. I'm telling you this only because you're a spirit race clansman. Eve now while you still can, or suffer the consequences." Betty frowned when she heard this. At the distance, Cohen's expression suddenly changed drastically as if Octon's words had triggered a memory in him. Cohen stared at Thamer in fear. Right now, Thamer only existed as a soul. The Abyss Devil he was possessing had exploded into bits since a while ago. Thamer's soul wriggled slowly like a strange ball of flesh. More and more light of annihilation spilled out of the wriggling soul shadow and threatened its surroundings with deadly corrosive power. Ya! Ya ya! All 6 great spirits of void and chaos suddenly transmitted a soul message to Qianlai at the same time. They were warning Qianlai to watch out for Thamer. Inside the whirlpool, Qianlai's expression grew more and more serious as he started putting some distance between him and Thamer. He didn't want to stay too close before he knew exactly what Thamer was going to do. He had no intentions of being caught off guard or be taken before he could react. What's going on? What's happening to that Thamer? Even Betty's smile was fading little by little. She stared seriously at Octon while asking, "What did you do?" Octon looked flustered and exasperated. "All you need to know is that you need to get out of the flaming sun abyss right now." After that, Octon tore the spatial barrier Betty had created with his bare hands and tried to leave again. But Betty wouldn't let him go. She reappeared in front of him in an instant before asking coldly, "Explain!" Octon suddenly let out a beastly roar. It looked like he could no longer endure Betty. Just when Octon was about to go on a rampage, Thamer's writhing soul figure suddenly emanated a chilly aura. The chilly aura immediately started invading everyone's soul consciousness the moment it appeared. Every living being, be it the Abyss Devils, the Spirit Race, Qianlai, and even the spirits of void and chaos sensed the chilly aura in an instant. Octon shivered when he sensed the chilly aura. His fury suddenly all gone. Instead, it was replaced with terrible fear and a very vague tinge of despair. He's coming, he's coming. Octon suddenly muttered like his soul had gone missing. Whoosh whoosh. Thamer's soul figure writhed violently before it started shrinking bit by bit. Several seconds later, Thamer had turned into a black the size of a tiny rice. As the creator of the Flaming Sun Abyss, Xianxia was able to pick up a strange spatial passage-like connection from the black dot. When he narrowed his eyes and tried to perceive it, he felt like he was watching a sea of colorful light. The Sea of Annihilation. Xianxia turned pale with shock. The black dot seemed to be connected to the Sea of Annihilation of Dark Shadow World. It was rumored to be a terrifying place that could annihilate all flesh and blood life form. Just when Xianxia was about to let out a scream, the black suddenly expanded abruptly like bursting flesh. Thamer's soul aura vanished completely after that. A strange, evil spirit seemed to be seeping into the exploded abyss devil that Thamer had possessed earlier. Shockingly, the broken bits of flesh and blood, scattered all over the place, started sliding across the ground like decapitated snakes and converging in one spot. In just the blink of an eye, the exploded bits of flesh and blood had joined back together and turned into a huge, wriggling black ball of flesh. An extremely strange life signature started emanating from inside the flesh ball. It was a peculiar soul presence that Xianxia had never seen in his life. Shadow being, Cohen shouted loudly in shock. Whoosh! The black ball of flesh suddenly flew towards a nearby abyss devil and reached him in just a breath's time. The abyss devil had been caught by the light of annihilation around the shoulder, but he hadn't perished from the attack. But the instant the flesh ball had wrapped around the wounded abyss devil, he immediately let out a blood-curdling scream. He didn't manage to escape from the black ball of flesh, however. On the contrary, he was clearly being sucked into the flesh ball before everyone's eyes. In just a few seconds, the big flesh ball had devoured the abyss devil completely and grown a size bigger. The life and soul aura emanating from the ball of black flesh grew even stronger than before. The flesh ball started flying towards another target. Another abyss devil who was partially wounded by the light of annihilation but alive was quickly devoured in the exact same way. Roar! The terrible, fearful scream that had escaped that abyss devil's throat caused everyone's blood to run cold. Meanwhile, Octon's face looked dark and fearful. He seemed to be looking for a way to leave the Flaming Sun Abyss. The surviving band of abyss devils, Betty, and Indigo all had grievous expressions at this point. Obviously, Xianxia was no longer the center of attention. Cohen, Vitas, and the remaining abyss devils started pondering for a way to survive this crisis. Xianxia glared harshly at Octon before he asked in a chilly tone, "That thing's a shadow being?" Everyone's eyes was trained onto Octon the moment he had voiced his question. Octon and Thamer had come and left the origin world together. Since he was aware of the danger even before Thamer had changed, it was clear that he was informed on that fleshball's origin. Octon was wearing an ugly look on his face as everyone stared at him coldly. He was just about to explain when his eyes suddenly turned blank. It would seem that the flesh ball that had been consuming wounded abyss devils nonstop had noticed something and directed its evil soul powers at Octon. Octon's blue pupils abruptly turned pitch black. The light in his eyes were slowly but surely fading away as well. The evil soul energy seemed to have taken control of him. Octon stood blankly on his feet like a doll. He didn't react no matter how much Betty had pummeled him with questions. He looked like a dead man. The black ball of flesh suddenly charged towards Octon noisily. It was clear that Octon had become its next target. Keep Octon alive. Xianxia, keep him alive. Cohen of the Black Bog Abyss suddenly shouted wildly. He's useful to us alive. Xianxia was caught off guard. Before he could react, Betty, who was the closest to Octon, was already shouting and letting out a cold snort. Get out of my way. Strange ripples of spatial energy suddenly spread towards the surroundings. The black ball of flesh was immediately pushed aside by the spatial ripples when it came into contact with them. The big flesh ball wanted to devour Octon, but the spatial ripples was actually driving it further and further away from its target. A chilly smile appeared on Betty's face as she curled her fingers and did a swiping motion all of a sudden. A gigantic spatial blade that looked like a 100-meter light blade had scored a direct hit on the black ball of flesh, cutting it in half instantly. The two halves of the flesh ball looked like a giant watermelon that had been cut in half. Everyone could see two halves of a shadow wriggling inside the flesh ball and taking on various unusual shapes. The shadows moved towards one another and joined back as one, carrying the wall of flesh around them as well. When the 100-meter light blade had vanished completely, the flesh it parted started bonding again. When the flesh ball had returned to normal, it was almost as if Betty's spatial blade hadn't dealt any damage to it at all. This time, the big flesh ball charged towards Betty instead of Octon. Betty's face turned serious as she faced the attack. It looked like this strange enemy was finally annoying her. Shadow beings are immune to almost all physical attacks, Cohen yelled. Betty frowned as she dodged out of the flesh ball's way while firing even more patterns containing secrets of space to buy time. She asked, "What is its weakness then?" Cohen thought for a moment before answering, "Try fire." Fire. Betty curled her lips before shaking her head. "That's not part of my area of expertise." It was at this moment Indigo turned to look at Qianlai. Hovering at the center of the whirlpool, Qianlai nodded once before his bones suddenly let out a crunching noise. In the blink of an eye, Qianlai had cancelled his Abyss Devil form and returned to normal. As his Abyss Devil race bloodline cooled, the whirlpool that had surrounded his body also vanished gradually. After his hair and eyes had turned back to black color, he started making his way toward Betty. "Is that his true appearance? Now we're finally talking. He looks much better when he's not devilized," Betty commented after she had turned around to shoot a glance at him. It was clear that the black ball of flesh that surrounded the shadow being wasn't able to deal a fatal blow to Betty even though it had put her on the defensive. A bit of moonlight flashed from Qianlai's shoulder while he was moving. It was the moon tear stored inside his silver moon imprint. A connection was instantly formed between Qianlai's soul and his artifact soul, Yu Yi, when it had appeared. "How do we eliminate a shadow being?" he asked. Yu Yi was the patriarch of the Serene Moon race, and Dark Moon World was their ancestral ground. In the past, their world had been nibbled away, assimilated and finally consumed by the Dark Shadow World. Yu Yi had fought against the shadow beings before, so he should be familiar with their weaknesses as well. That was why he had purposely summoned Moon Tear to get some answers. "A shadow being is here?" Yu Yi was caught by surprise. The moon tear abruptly changed into 9 moon dots or a single dot from time to time. The sparkling moon tear seemed to be sensing something. "There is a shadow being around here," Yu Yi screamed through his soul while still controlling the moon tear. Shadow beings are afraid of hottest of flames and absolute frost. However, they are unafraid of spirit energy blasts or cutting attacks. There are some powerful secret soul arts that can wound them as well. Hottest of flames, absolute frost, secret soul arts. Qianlai's eyes brightened a little at this. It was because he just so happened to be well-versed in every power Yu Yi had just mentioned. His mastery over absolute frost and soul arts were pretty good. Qianlai calmed down when he heard Yu Ye's advice. Suddenly, the shadow being no longer felt as scary. "Transform!" Qianlai activated his Blaze family bloodline immediately. In an instant, his hair and pupils had turned as red as flames. Imperishable flames started burning on his body, and they spread out to form a flame world. The burning flame world was overflowing with shockingly high temperature. It was like a volcano that wouldn't stop gushing lava. Even his nostrils had looked like they were leaking fire. The God race, the Blaze family bloodline, the Blaze family's imperishable flames. How can this be? The few surviving Abyss Devils suddenly screamed when they saw Qianlai's new form. Not long ago, Qianlai had just fought Locke in his devilized form. At the time, Qianlai was covered in unique aura of the Abyss, thick Abyss Devil energy, sinister-looking spikes and tough black armor. There was absolutely no question that he was an Abyss Devil back then. However, not long after he had exited his devilized form, Qianlai had suddenly transformed into a Blaze family member. The blazing flame world and the fire flowing across his body were all unique traits possessed by no one except a Blaze family member. Moreover, the Abyss Devil aura that had surrounded him earlier was completely gone. Every Abyss Devil who witnessed this change was wearing a look of astonishment on their faces. None of them could explain what was going on. Did an Abyss Devil and a God Race clansman copulate with each other? But if that's true, then why haven't we heard of such a precedent? Since when was there someone with both the Abyss Devil and the God Race's bloodlines? I've never even heard of such a person. In their eyes, Qianlai was currently no different from a monster. So it was true. Meanwhile, Betty was smiling mysteriously with bright eyes. It looked like she had known about this since a while ago. Bang! Suddenly, the big flesh ball that was chasing after Betty suddenly exploded into a rain of light and blood. Someone who was paying close attention would notice the light of annihilation hidden within the blood droplets. The Abyss Devils who were standing close to Betty didn't expect this to happen at all. As a result, the light-tinged blood droplets had struck them before they could react in time. Sizzle! Their bodies started melting slowly. Strange shadows had seized the opportunity to slip into their bodies as well. When the scattered shadows had entered the Abyss Devil's body, even their souls were starting to melt into nothing. Since Qianlai was well-versed in the soul race's secret arts, it took him little to no effort to sense this phenomenon. This meant that Cohen of the Black Bog Abyss was the only Abyss Devil left who hadn't yet been touched by the light of annihilation. Even his former opponent, Vitas of the Extreme Flame Abyss, wasn't able to escape the light of annihilation this time. Right now, Vitas was screaming on top of his lungs. Roar! Wisps of fiery liquid suddenly gushed out of Vitas's pores all of a sudden. It would appear that the threat of death had driven his flame demon bloodline to grow stronger. The Abyss Devil instantly devilized into a flame demon who was covered in burning lava from head to toe. The fist-sized shadow that was burying into his body instantly escaped after Vitas had transformed into a flame demon. However, his flames were completely useless against the tiny but deadly light of annihilation that was eroding his new body. Qianlai, save me. Please save me this one time, Vitas shouted and begged with all his might. I will swear loyalty to you in the ancient language of the Abyss if I survive this. Please. Vitas was aware that burning his bloodline could drive away the Shadow Being's soul, but not the light of annihilation. Out of all the people present in the Flaming Sun Abyss, Qianlai was the only one who had control over the spirits of void and chaos and knew how to deal with the light of annihilation. That was why he had placed all his hopes onto Qianlai. Swear loyalty, he says. Qianlai looked moved by the idea. A powerful Abyss Devil was normally followed by a lot of low-rank followers. This phenomenon could be observed across all Abyss levels. A rank 9 Lord of the Abyss normally had a couple of rank 8 subordinates, and their rank 8 subordinates had even more rank 7 and rank 6 subordinates. A weak Abyss Devil would choose to serve a strong Abyss Devil. It was an unchanging law that had existed in the Abyss for the longest time. Vitas had requested to become his follower. From now on, he would become Vitas's master, and their bond would be enforced by a master and servant contract. A flame demon who also possesses a succubus bloodline. If he successfully reaches rank 9 and becomes a Lord of the Abyss, he would awaken to powerful succubus abilities. Qianlai's eyes brightened bit by bit as he considered the offer. In the end, he sent out an order to the spirits of void and chaos. The Thunder Spirit was the closest spirit to Vitas. It temporarily gave up on a beam of light of annihilation it was chasing and appeared before Vitas's chest instantly. The light of annihilation that was eroding Vitas's body immediately lost its power the moment the Thunder Spirit had appeared. A simple check revealed that the strange energy residing inside the light of annihilation eroding his chest had already been absorbed by the Thunder Spirit, putting him out of danger. Vitas didn't say anything. He simply nodded once at Qianlai and made a bow from afar. It was the proper etiquette a subordinate should show to their master. Qianlai grinned and let out a chuckle. After returning the nod with his own, Qianlai asked, Who else? Who else wishes to live another day? There were a couple more Abyss Devils who were caught by the rain of blood just like Vitas. Qianlai had wanted to recruit a few more followers the same way. Unfortunately, he discovered that the rest of the Abyss Devils had been dissolved into nothing already. Unlike Vitas, these poor Abyss Devils were no flame demons. They were incapable of transforming their body and soul into lava and fire. That was why they hadn't been able to resist the shadow being's corrosive powers. This also meant that Cohen was the only surviving abyss devil left besides Vita's. "Wake up!" Indigo said loudly. Meanwhile, Indigo had somehow made her way to Octon without anyone realizing and was yelling at him using a voice that shook souls. Slowly, Octon broke out of his trance and regained his consciousness. As the haze in Octon's eyes cleared up, he asked, "This is the flaming sun abyss?" Then he shivered as realization struck him. Thamer has been devoured by a shadow being. It's using Thamer's soul to travel from the Sea of Annihilation all the way to the flaming sun abyss. "You're a bit too late, I think." Betty let out a cold snort. "Why don't you look around you and see how many abyss devils are still alive?" Octon was caught off guard by her remark. Then, he looked around and saw dead abyss devils in all directions. He immediately understood what just occurred while he was still in a trance. Thamer had played with fire too much and got burnt as a result. He had wanted to use the light of annihilation to make a trade with a shadow being. Octon said with a look of shock and fear. The shadow being can travel through the light of annihilation, so that means that it can travel anywhere as long as Thamer still has the light of annihilation with him. Thamer thought that he had control over everything, and that he could even stop the shadow being from coming through the light of annihilation. However, it looks like he had severely underestimated the shadow being's power and craftiness. Not only did he fail to prevent the shadow being from coming through, he even lost his soul completely in the process. In fact, this shadow being might have revealed the coordinates of this world to other shadow beings already. There might be more shadow beings making their way to the flaming sun abyss right now. Octon looked at the gray sky of the flaming sun abyss with an ugly look on his face. It won't be too long before this abyss level becomes fully assimilated into dark shadow world. Even more shadow beings are coming? Qin Lai's expression changed drastically. Qin Lai had a dark expression. The arrival of one shadow being already put considerable pressure on him. If more of these beings arrived, he feared managing the flaming sun abyss would be truly difficult. According to Octon, right now, this shadow being acted as a beacon for the other shadow beings. More shadow beings would swarm this place. Maybe the flaming sun abyss would become like Dark Moon World, assimilated by the Dark Shadow World. His abyss level would become a cold, desolate place without light, only suitable for the shadow beings to live in. If the flaming sun abyss really turned to that, was there a reason for him, the abyss creator, to exist? Maybe, maybe not. "I am not sure," Octon said seriously. At this time, Betty, Indigo, Vitas and Cohen all gathered around Qin Lai. Everyone had an unspoken agreement to stay vigilant and deal with the shadow being with minimal casualties. After exploding, the shadow being hidden in the threads of blood managed to eliminate many abyss devils. The dissolving bodies of the abyss devils turned into puddles of flesh and blood. Under the invaders' control, they gathered into an eerie ball of flesh. The souls of the abyss devils had already been consumed by the shadow being, becoming a powerful nourishment. Through Yu Ye's description, Qin Lai knew that the shadow beings fed on the souls of all beings. Souls were their power source. Due to this, a realm with life, if invaded by shadow beings, would be completely devoid of life in a short while. Unlike the God race, the spirit race, and the soul race, the shadow beings did not need captives or servants. Everywhere they passed, the ancient races would have their souls consumed. If Yu Yi had not fled in time, he and the Serene Moon race would have been exterminated as well. Right now, even the Dark Moon world where Yu Yi and the others had lived had been invaded by the Dark Shadow world and became a part of the Dark Shadow world. There was no Dark Moon world in this universe anymore. Oh! At this time, Qin Lai's expression changed and he looked into the distance. He detected another soul presence. "There is still someone who attempts to kill me recklessly and take my heart," he sneered. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 enormous shadows flashed from the distance and flew in front of everyone in a short moment. Those were 3 abyss devils very similar to Locke after devilization. They all had long tails and natural scales protecting them. The 3 abyss devils all had rank 8 bloodline, and one of them was a female. She was tall, her breasts voluptuous. Even after devilization, she still seemed attractive. Her beautiful face, not covered in scales, had a seductive smile. However, her eyes were filled with coldness. Another 3 bloodline descendants of the sacrificial ghost monarch. Cohen was slightly shocked. That guy thinks not enough people have died? Betty said curiously. The 3 bloodline descendants of the sacrificial ghost monarch suddenly arrived. The 3 abyss devils looked down with darkening expressions. In their eyes, there were dozens of bloody abyss devil corpses in the surroundings. Those dead abyss devils were horrific to look at, as though they had been dissolved in acid. Under their gaze, the bloody puddles were slowly moving and gathering together. This scene was extremely eerie and dark. They watched silently. After a while, they found the corpses of those abyss devils formed an enormous ball of flesh. The ball of flesh expanded and gave off a dark soul presence. "This is," muttered the female abyss devil. "A shadow being is hiding inside." The female abyss devil stared at the big flesh ball for a while, her gaze wary. "If you do not want to die, stay away from it." The 3 abyss devils avoided the flesh ball as it rose into the air. They clearly knew the danger. "You are the creator of the flaming sun abyss?" The female abyss devil swung her enormous tail, a strange smile on her mouth, her eyes snapping to Qianlai's figure, exuding mysterious light. "HM? That's not right. Why are you a god race clansman?" Qianlai ignored her and looked at Octon, asking, "This shadow being came from the Sea of Annihilation?" Octon nodded. "He and Thamer met in the Sea of Annihilation." Qianlai's expression grew uglier. Through the scattered memories of the spirits of void and chaos, and some of the fragmented thoughts of the soul race clansmen, he knew that not all shadow beings could enter the Sea of Annihilation. The Sea of Annihilation was the most unique and forbidden land in the dark shadow world. Only those with permission and had high status among the shadow beings could move about the Sea of Annihilation. Obviously, shadow beings of high status were stronger than their most common clansmen. This meant that the shadow being in the Flaming Sun Abyss was an expert among the shadow beings with special status. "Is Thamer definitely dead?" he asked. "I do not feel any presence of Thamer," Octon said with a frown. "Hey!" The female abyss devil from the sacrificial ghost purgatory saw Qianlai ignore her. She became visibly angry and shouted, "I am asking you." Qianlai turned to glance at her impatiently and said, "If you want to die like Locke, you can try." He pointed at his chest and activated his abyss devil race bloodline ever so slightly to show off his abyss devil presence. The 3 abyss devils immediately felt thick familiar presence exuded by his body. Their initial assumption was right. This person who was seemingly a god race clansman was the creator of the Flaming Sun Abyss. He was their target. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The enormous ball of flesh made from the fallen abyss devils started to visibly expand and transform. In but a moment, it turned into a giant, eerie-looking abyss devil. That abyss devil was a dozen meters tall. It had a giant tail like Locke, strange horns on its head, bone wings on its back, and ugly sores over its skin. The enormous sores were filled with filthy, sticky, corrosive liquid that resembled blood. It was seeping out. The abyss devil made from flesh and bones crushed and mixed together was still physical manifestation of the shadow being, but its body had clear abyss devil energy fluctuations. This meant that the abyss devil giant in front of them had the ability to fight. You will all die." The snarling strange abyss devil bared its teeth as it stammered out in the language of the abyss. Everyone knew that it was a shadow being inside that ugly abyss devil body. He was clearly slowly familiarizing himself with the language of the abyss. His speech was very unskilled at the start, but he just adjusted after a while, and seemed to be completely familiar with the native tongue. When he spoke again, he did not stammer, and could clearly express his intentions. "The abyss is a realm that us shadow beings have always wanted to enter. This level of the abyss will provide an entrance to us. We will slowly consume the abyssite into part of our dark shadow world. All the beings in the abyss, along with their souls, will become our food, and serve to create more shadow beings. Everything will start from this newly created level of the abyss. Poison flowed out of the sores of the tall abyss devil body as it moved its limbs. He released threads of dense abyss devil energy, which made him resemble a genuine abyss devil. But everyone knew it was still the terrifying shadow being. You want to consume the abyss? Starting with my flaming sun abyss? Xianxia shook his head and said, "You are delusional." His thoughts moved suddenly. Whoosh whoosh. Zing zing zing. 6 blinding rays of light flew out of the rays of light of annihilation and floated around him like a rainbow. He pointed. The 6 spirits of void and chaos suddenly flew out on his orders. The spirits could switch between tangible and intangible states. Their incorporeal form could only be felt with a soul. In the group gathered in the flaming sun abyss, other than Xianxia, only Indigo and Betty could detect where the spirits of void and chaos were. They looked towards the enormous abyss devil body controlled by the shadow being. Pew pew. Suddenly, 6 bloody holes appeared on the tall abyss devil body. The 6 spirits of void and chaos immediately burrowed into the giant after turning invisible. Crack! Blood mixed with the light of annihilation sprayed out of the body of mixed abyss devil parts. The giant construct of flesh seemed to have been torn into pieces by the spirits of void and chaos. At the same time, the fire spirit released raging flames. Whoosh whoosh. The burning flames drowned the enormous abyss devil body. The shadow being hiding in the abyss devil body was not truly invulnerable, just like Yu Yi said. They also feared fire. The fire spirit, after evolving numerous times, was the strongest out of the spirits of void and chaos. As the fire spirit, the flames he released could even damage the shadow being. Such a strange life form. A cloud of dark shadow flew out of the bloody abyss devil body and muttered. After that, the abyss devil body turned back into pieces of meat that fell to the ground. The light of annihilation specks flashed occasionally inside the abyss devil body. But as soon as they appeared, the 6 spirits of void and chaos would compete for the rights to consume them. The dark shadow nimbly flew far away from the spirits of void and chaos. The shadow being seemed very curious. He seemed to be shocked by the existence of the spirits of void and chaos. He and other shadow beings had corroded many realms and fought many foreign races. Other than the soul race, he had never seen a foreign race that did not fear the light of annihilation. He had never heard of beings that could absorb the power of the light of annihilation, let alone seen them. This shadow being who entered the flaming sun abyss through Thamer was shocked by the existence of the 6 spirits of void and chaos. After a brief consideration, he concluded that he could not grasp the characteristics of the spirits of void and chaos, nor had absolute confidence he could destroy them. Poof! The cluster of dark shadows suddenly shattered, scattering dark light to the surroundings. A strange suction force capable of devouring souls came from within, entire flaming sun abyss in its range. Xianxia's soul altar shook fiercely, and so did his true soul hidden within. It had almost been forcefully pulled out into the open. That would have been the case had he not calmed himself down and countered the mysterious force. The 6 spirits of void and chaos slowly floated back to his body after tearing apart that abyss devil body. Their placidity proved that they weren't affected. Xianxia looked and found that Indigo had a calm expression after frowning. Betty grunted and used spatial power to make a boundary to block the vibration of soul. Other than the 3 of them, the other abyss devils, including Octon, had dazed expressions. Whoosh! Octon's soul flew out right under Betty's eyes. The souls of the 3 abyss devils from the sacrificial ghost purgatory also flew out. Vitas and Cohen were not spared. They lost control of their soul. The shadow being who had consumed Thamer either obtained Thamer's secret soul arts, or had innate ability to consume souls. After the shadow exploded, it created a strange field capable of attracting souls. The souls flew out of their bodies along his soul art. This is the flaming sun abyss. I am the creator of this abyss level. Xianxia snorted. He closed his eyes. He suddenly pointed towards his forehead. A dot of black light suddenly shone. A pure black curtain of light came from the soul-suppressing orb. He looked towards Cohen and Vitas. Their souls immediately stopped in the air. A moment later, their souls returned to their bodies. Octan's soul, and the souls from the 3 abyss devils of the sacrificial ghost purgatory were not his responsibility. Those 4 souls slowly floated towards the larger dark shadow. SST. The scattered dots of light suddenly gathered and reformed into one. Octan and the 3 abyss devil souls from sacrificial ghost purgatory disappeared into that dot of light like moths burned by the flame. We already have the coordinates for the flaming sun abyss. In the future, it will be our first target. A soul thought came from the dot of light, disappearing the next moment. No trace, physical or soul, of the shadow being remained. Qianlai narrowed his eyes, and he observed where the light had disappeared with a dark expression for a while. At this time, the abyss devil race bloodline inside his body suddenly gave off a strange ripple. It's done. He stilled, and then found the 8-eyed demon spirit bloodline inside him could form star doors again. The restraints the flaming sun abyss had put on his bloodline seemed to have run out. He had faced the challenges like every abyss creator. Does that mean I've been truly acknowledged by the laws of the abyss? He murmured to himself. Octan. Betty of the spirit race watched as the dot of light disappeared. Her expression grew complicated. She reached out with a hand and pointed at the direction the light disappeared as though she was probing it. Spatial ripples spread from her fingertip. SST. A thread of the light of annihilation flashed and then quickly disappeared. Qianlai's eyes lit up as he focused on this thread. He seemed to see the endless sea of annihilation. In that sea of annihilation filled with light, countless shadow beings seemed to be moving as though they were creating new life. He instinctively looked towards the origin sea. The small insects with their little wings flew out of the origin sea in a direction opposite them. Could it be? He suddenly felt the sea of annihilation in the dark shadow world was like the origin sea of the flaming sun abyss, a place that birthed life. However, the origin sea created low-rank abyss devils, and the sea of annihilation in the dark shadow world created shadow beings. Of course, this was just his speculation. Before entering the dark shadow world and encountering the sea of annihilation, he was not sure that this was the truth. He just had some blurry ideas. He fell into a daze. Sister Betty, you seem slightly disappointed. Is it because of Octan? Indigo looked at Betty and asked curiously, didn't you come to the flaming sun abyss to deal with Octan? Shouldn't you be happy his soul had been pulled into the dark shadow world? Happy? Betty shook his head. He is a member of the spirit race and a spirit seed. In reality, I did not hope for his death. Indigo had an expression of puzzlement. Old man Xianxia also hoped I would capture Octan alive and return him to the spirit race, Betty said. The great sage wants him alive? Indigo realized. Betty nodded. Master. At this time, Vitas who came from the extreme flame abyss stood respectfully next to Qianlai and bowed. Qianlai stilled. Vitas bowed his head. I am willing to sign a slave contract with you. If Qianlai hadn't ordered the spirits of void and chaos to remove the light of annihilation, even if he transformed into a flame demon, his flames would have been turned to ash by the light of annihilation. When he begged Qianlai for help, he said he was willing to be a servant and follow Qianlai. He was going to fulfill his promise. Slave contract. Qianlai rubbed his chin and thought with a frown about the differences between a slave contract and soul beast soul slave. As he considered his options, his abyss devil race bloodline became unusually active. Ancient, hidden knowledge was excavated and turned into a memory. He immediately knew the details of the abyss devil race's slave contract, how to create it, and the differences between them and the soul slaves of the soul race. The slave contract of the abyss devil race was much looser than the soul servant, and did not have any special restrictions. Based on the slave contract, if Vitas was willing to become his subordinate, he could have Vitas fight for him. But his opponents had to be of the same bloodline rank. Vitas had a right to refuse to fight an opponent of higher rank than him. This meant that Master couldn't lead his subordinate to die, or make them fight an enemy out of their league. Moreover, if the follower's bloodline rank exceeded his master's, the slave contract would be void. In contrast, soul race's soul slaves were more like actual slaves. They had to obey their master's orders completely, as well as give up a part of their soul origin. Even if the master told a soul slave to die, the servant was forced to act on master's wishes. The soul servant had no freedom. Of course, soul slaves could also be rewarded and receive pure soul energy, as well as learn soul race secret arts. Master! Vidas called softly. Oh! In thought, Qianlai suddenly realized. Then, he activated his Abyss Devil race bloodline and pressed his hand on Vidas's chest. A drop of blood appeared from his fingertip. That drop of blood imprinted on Vidas's chest, and slowly changed into the Abyss characters that meant Flaming Sun. Flaming Sun seemed to become Qianlai's mark. His followers would all be imprinted with these words after the bond formed. Vidas looked at the Flaming Sun characters on his chest, and used his bloodline to wrap around them, as a ceremony of entering a slave contract. A moment later, Vidas's eyes lit up and his body shook slightly. Burning flames came off his body. The flame demon bloodline within him seemed to have a new bloodline latent ability awakened because of the mark Qianlai left behind. "Thank you, Master," he said seriously. Qianlai nodded and said, "The Flaming Sun Abyss has not completely formed. In this short period of time, I do not want to greatly develop the Flaming Sun Abyss. You can move freely and go to any other Abyss level. When I have a need, I will call you." Vidas nodded in understanding. The 6 spirits of void and chaos all flew back and cheered happily before entering Qianlai Esclabella. This time, they did not go consume the different spirit materials or play with Qianlai. After consuming the light of annihilation, they seemed to be full and sleepy. They entered the soul-suppressing orb. Qianlai used his soul consciousness to take a look. They seemed to have been fallen into deep slumber to slowly digest the mysterious light of annihilation. "What are those 6 things?" Betty said. "Nothing," Qianlai said aloofly. Cohen from the Black Bog Abyss was the other living Abyss devil other than Vidas. His gaze had been on the 6 spirits of void and chaos, and he was also very curious. He had some knowledge of the light of annihilation and knew the terror of the shadow beings. He had never heard of any beings that could consume the light of annihilation. He was filled with curiosity towards the 6 spirits of void and chaos. "I have never heard of any beings that could eat the light of annihilation. I don't think that shadow being left the Flaming Sun Abyss because he feared us." Cohen thought for a moment and said, "It was those 6 things that forced him to leave." At the words, everyone unconsciously focused on Cohen. "If you want to leave the Flaming Sun Abyss alive, then you'd better tell us all you know about the shadow beings." Qianlai narrowed his eyes, his expression turning cold. Indigo and Vidas quietly surrounded Cohen after Qianlai's words. Cohen frowned and said, "My father went to Dark Shadow World." "Your father?" Betty's eyes lit up slightly as she reacted. "You father is Ashnaz?" Cohen nodded. Bloodline was surprised and said, "So you are his bloodline descendant, no wonder. My father is the strongest great lord of the Black Bog Abyss. He once tried to leave the Abyss and go to Dark Shadow World. He wanted to gather some light of annihilation and merge it into his bloodline to increase its corrosive power." Cohen sighed. "But even my father had almost died there, barely managing to escape the shadow beings. After he returned from the Dark Shadow World, he spent a long time before he recovered his bloodline power. He told me the shadow beings were the natural enemy of all physical beings and the destroyers of life. The shadow beings consume souls. Just like we have to eat meat, they can only survive by eating souls. Their reproduction is strictly tied to soul power, so they constantly invade other realms. The realms invaded will have all life exterminated. Then, they would become a part of Dark Shadow World. The light of annihilation is one of the weapons of the shadow beings. This strange light can corrode almost all flesh. My father attempted to merge the light of annihilation into his body. His intestines rotted, and his rank 10 Abyss Devil body almost turned into liquid. He cut off a third of his body infected with the light of annihilation to eliminate that terrifying light. According to my father, the majority of races in the universe would one day go extinct because of the shadow beings. Only a few races, such as the soul race that have no physical body, will be fortunate and spared. You possess strange beings that can absorb the light of annihilation. If there are many of them, or if they are powerful in the future, they may become a beacon of hope in our fight against the shadow beings. Cohen looked at Qin Lai with a burning gaze and said seriously. Cohen's words caused Qin Lai and the others to have serious expressions and gave everyone a deeper understanding of the shadow beings. If you do not mind, can I leave the flaming sun abyss? Cohen changed the topic. In the future, I may return, but I will definitely not try to kill you and steal your heart. Qin Lai was still lost in his thoughts. Hearing Cohen say this, he nodded, waved his hand and said, "You can go, Master." Vitas said softly. "You can leave at any time," Qin Lai said. "Thank you, Master," Vitas said respectfully. He and Cohen headed towards the entrance of the abyss passageway together. Betty of the spirit race pointed at Octan's soulless body and said with a smile, "May I take his corpse?" Qin Lai glanced at it and said, unconcerned, "Up to you." Betty laughed. She used a curtain of bloodline light to wrap around Octan's corpse and flew away. "Little sister Indigo, I will wait for you outside," she called. "All right," Indigo responded. In a blink of an eye, only Qin Lai and Indigo were left, excluding the 3 soulless abyss devils from the sacrificial ghost purgatory. Qin Lai's body flashed and he appeared next to the 3 abyss devils. He grabbed and dug out a heart from one abyss devil. He slowly refined the heart in his hand with devil devouring. As he did this, he said, "The great master Xianxia that I've met in spirit realm is the great sage Xianxia of your spirit race?" Indigo said respectfully, "Yes, the great sage is the most intelligent person of the spirit race." Qin Lai frowned, thought for a moment, grimaced and said, "I do not know whether to thank him or hate him." "Why?" Indigo asked. "He gave me lifeblood essence of a rank 10 demon spirit of space and time. It helped me greatly, but because of that blood I accidentally opened a star abyss in spirit realm connected to the abyss passageway," Qin Lai explained. Without great sage Xianxia, his bloodline might not have reached rank 8 so quickly, and he would not have awakened the star abyss ability. Then he wouldn't have hurriedly entered the abyss passageway, causing his origin world to transform into flaming sun abyss after some random happenings. But due to the transformation of the demon spirit of space and time bloodline, a black hole connected to spirit realm appeared in the abyss passageway. Even at that moment, after destroying the black hole, 2 devil kings of the chaos abyss were still running rampant in spirit realm. Great sage Xianxia, one of the 3 great blood and soul mentors. Qin Lai had no idea whether to hate him or be thankful to him. "I only know the great sage values you greatly," Indigo said sincerely. "Values me?" Qin Lai laughed. "I am not a member of the spirit race. Why does he value me? Or is it that my existence affected his machinations? I do not know." Indigo shook her head softly. She hesitated and said, "Apologies. The spirit race may enter your realm one day. I cannot stop this." Qin Lai frowned. He sighed softly and said, "I understand. I can only promise that when we do, I will do my best to control my people and prevent them from doing whatever they want," Indigo said apologetically. Qin Lai nodded. "I stayed there for a while. I know. The races there are not as strong as the 4 transcendent bloodline races." Indigo thought a moment and said, "Do not underestimate the spirit race. Up until now, you have not seen the power of the spirit race clansmen after we combine with our pets. Last time in the origin world and this time in the flaming sun abyss our demon pets had been restricted. It won't be the same when we come to spirit realm. At that time, you will understand the demon pets of the spirit race are sometimes stronger than their masters. The demon pets are like your spirit artifacts, mighty weapons we use to increase their power." Qin Lai had a grave expression. In his mind, he felt that the power of the spirit race was weaker than the other 3 transcendent bloodline races. Just as Indigo said, he felt that the spirit race's combat abilities were average. Their bodies were not as strong as the abyss devil and god races, and their souls were not as strong as the soul races. He was surprised the spirit race was one of the 4 transcendent races. But Indigo's words made him wake up. The demon spirit of space and time had magical abilities in the abyss passageway. But such a wondrous being was only one of the spirit race's demon pets. According to Indigo, the demon pets of the spirit race might be more powerful than their masters. The members of the spirit race could also combine with their demon pets. At this time, he had to admit he had dismissed the power of the spirit race. "Take care," Indigo said softly. She turned into an azure ray of light and headed in Betty's direction. Qianlai dug out the remaining hearts of the sacrificial ghost purgatory's abyss devils and refined them, his expression dark. After that, he sat down by the side of the Origin Sea and activated the Abyss Devil race bloodline so he could enter his Abyss Devil form again. He reflected on the subtle changes in his Abyss Devil race bloodline near the Origin Sea. He was exploring more secrets of the bloodline inside him. Meanwhile, at Sky-bearing City, Qianlai's Dark Soul Beast avatar seemed to detect something. He turned into his main body's appearance and flew out of the dim hall. His Dark Soul Beast avatar floated above Sky-bearing City. The Door of Nine shone with light above Sky-bearing City and gave off powerful spatial vibrations. The martial practitioners who had left for 3 centuries appeared through the Door of Nine. Hunchback Ba, Gon Faping, Fan Gon, Dan Yuanqing, Chun Lin, Miao Yitzi, and many other martial practitioners he had not met all came through. The Ji family and Sky Mender Palace martial practitioners who had received the message came through the teleportation formations and looked with smiles at the sky. The Qin family has returned to Spirit Realm. After 3 centuries, they've finally returned. They finally returned as the God race is about to invade. Within Sky-bearing City, the martial practitioners and artificers who guarded the city cheered, seeing the unusual activity of the Door of Nine. A thin old man walked out of one of the realm entrances and suddenly looked towards the Dark Soul Beast avatar. The old man's eyes were filled with gratification. "Grandpa!" After many years, the Qin family and the numerous martial practitioners finally returned to Sky-bearing City. Qianlai, after many years, once again saw Qin Shan. Midair, Qin Shan abandoned the Qin family martial practitioners and headed straight for him. Behind Qin Shan, Qin Yun, and Qin Yi exchanged smiles and flew toward Qin Lai as well. "Isn't this little Lai?" Qin Yun exclaimed. "Just one of his soul beast avatars," Qin Yi explained in a low voice. Qin Yun immediately understood and nodded. He said, "So it is a rank 9 Dark Soul Beast avatar, no wonder. It will soon reach rank 10, Qin Yi said with a smile. Qin Yun was shocked. He was Qin Shan's eldest son and had inherited the great skill as an artificer. He was the best artificer next to Qin Shan in the Qin family. He had no great interest in the martial way, and his present cultivation was only late void realm and a 6th-level soul altar. However, his 6th-level flame soul altar was primarily used to forge and did not have great combat power. This caused his soul perception to be average. Consequently, he did not immediately recognize the Qianlai in front of him was a transformed rank 9 Dark Soul Beast. He has 2 soul beast avatars like this. Qin Yi laughed softly and said, "The other soul beast is the blood soul beast that once rampaged in ancient beast realm and is mainly a soul body. It is trying to quickly recover its strength. That blood soul beast is rank 10. Once the blood soul beast avatar recovers to its peak, it will be comparable to a 9-level soul altar expert." Qin Yun's eyes lit up. 3 centuries ago, he, like many other Qin family members, had been greatly disappointed in Qianlai. Unlike Qin Ye's affection for Qianlai, he had been very harsh towards Qianlai back then and hated how weak he was. He had thought that Qianlai's life would not have any major changes. He had disagreed greatly when Qianlai came back to life and his father abandoned everything to live with him on Scarlet Tide Continent. He felt that more resources used on Qianlai would not change Qianlai's base personality and could not turn Qianlai into someone like Qin Hao. When Qin Shan had left Lingtown and returned to Olden Warm Realm, Qin Yun had asked about Qianlai's situation with a thread of hope. At the time, Qin Shan had told him that Qianlai had not been enlightened yet, At that time, he completely gave up and felt that Qin Lai would be stuck in Ling Town for his lifetime. He and Qin Yi privately thought if Qin Lai continued to be muddled, then living in Ling Town was a good choice. They both felt that Qin Lai could not carry the responsibilities of the Qin family. After that, he did not pay any more attention to Qin Lai. He felt that Qin Lai living peacefully in Ling Town on the Scarlet Tide continent was a fortunate matter. Yet not long ago, he learned through Qin Yi that Qin Lai had completely transformed. He, who had not paid special attention to news surrounding Qin Lai, did not quite believe it when he learned of Qin Lai's great change. Only as he turned his gaze towards Spirit Realm recently, as he received more news, he finally knew that his nephew had really undergone complete transformation. He finally understood that the effort his father Qin Shan had put on Qin Lai was not for nothing. Whether our family can go far and really step into the stars will depend on him, Qin Yi suddenly said. Qin Yun had a strange expression. Grandpa. At this time, Qin Lai smiled widely at Qin Shan who was flying over. Qin Shan's eyes turned red. He nodded softly in gratification. You worked hard these years. Qin Lai shook his head. Where is your main body? Qin Shan asked softly. In the flaming sun abyss. Do not worry, I am fine. Qin Lai smiled slightly and said, Right now, my main body is cultivating. Good. Qin Shan nodded. Grandfather and grandson floated down towards the dim hall from the sky above sky-bearing city. Qin Yun and Qin Yi followed and entered the hall as well. The other Qin family martial practitioners, and the guests who had come from Skymender Palace and the Ji family perceptively talked outside. More martial practitioners continued to return from between the stars through the Door of Nine. Those martial practitioners who resided long-term in Sky-bearing City, and the artificers cheered and showed their welcome to the Qin family's return. Inside the hall, the old patriarch of the Qin family sighed softly and said in a voice full of regret, In these years, I felt that I was too hard on you. Many times, I wanted to arrange for people to take you away from those dangerous situations, and not let you face these difficulties alone. Back on the Scarlet Tide continent, I knew you encountered many troubles and almost died several times. After you entered the land of chaos, I still paid attention to you and watched you struggle against those old men, watched as you were targeted by Black Voodoo cult and Celestial Artifact sect. I watched the invasion of the ghoul races. I knew that you faced all these dangers. He stopped and grimaced. But I did not want the tragedy of 3 centuries ago to happen again. I did not want you to be trapped by a woman. I did not want our affection to cause you to be average your entire life, nor give you too much pressure. So I chose to let go. I wanted to see, if I left you, would you adjust to this cruel world? Would you adjust to the cold, devious, scheming hearts of people? If you could not adjust, I hoped that you would stay in Ling Town forever and live an innocent life. But the results prove you've adjusted, and became stronger than I anticipated. I knew that my gamble paid off, Qin Shan said powerfully. Qin Yun and Qin Yi also had gratified expressions and felt proud of the present Qin Lai. Without using any of the Qin family's resources, Qin Lai walked step by step from Ling Town to today's great accomplishments. This was inconceivable. Right now, all the silver rank forces in the Land of Chaos were led by Qin Lai's Flaming Sun Island. In Baluo Realm, all the foreign races trusted Qin Lai. The ancient beast race and the demon dragon race chose to stand with the Qin family due to Qin Lai. Even the Ji family slowly grew closer to the Qin family because of Qin Lai's great change and his connection to the abyss. The powers that Qin Lai could command almost rivaled a gold rank force. He had obtained all this with his own power. Other than this, he managed to reach the imperishable realm within a century and create a 1-level soul altar. His god race bloodline reached rank 8. He had 2 horrifying soul beast avatars and his individual strength was unrivaled at equal cultivation level. He proved to everyone he was exceptional without relying on the Qin family. Outside Sky-bearing City, figures appeared out of a spatial entrance. Pei Dehong, Hongju, and other white-haired old men from the 6 forces appeared. They were human genesis realm experts and the strongest of the human factions at the moment. They hurried over from all over Spirit Realm after hearing the Qin family was returning to Sky-bearing City in large numbers. They wanted to get closer and know the truth. Yes, it is Qin Shan. Peidahong's brow furrowed. The God Race's profound ice family is stationed near Shattered Ice Realm right now. At such a crucial time, they suddenly return to Sky-bearing City. They are clearly taking advantage of the opportunity. Hong Ju snorted. Ice Emperor is alive. He appeared in Shattered Ice Realm to warn us. Peidahong said gravely. If Ice Emperor is alive, the other two must also be alive. Hong Ju's eyes flashed. Back then, when they went to chase Lian Yuan, they ordered the gold rank forces not to fight. Peidahong frowned. When he met us, he was clearly displeased. He knows that we've broken that rule 300 years ago. Right now, the Qin family is returning to Sky-bearing City in large numbers. Maybe they have the permission of the three emperors. Hong Ju's expression changed slightly. I heard that Qin Hao went to attack Terror Devil King and Despair Devil King on the Ice Emperor's orders. If that is true, it means the three emperors are closer to the Qin family. This is not good. Peidahong finished his sentence and sighed softly. The Qin family, Skymender Palace, Ji family, the ancient beast race, the demon dragon race, and favor of the three emperors. Hong Ju had a pained expression. Sky-bearing City. A white-robed figure suddenly flashed out of one of the realm entrances. He flowed silently above Sky-bearing City. In the Qin family hall, Qin Shan suddenly felt something as he talked with Qin Lai and immediately walked out. Qin Lai stilled. His expression changed slightly and he also walked outside. He and Qin Shan stood on the plaza side by side, looking at the white-robed figure, their eyes full of surprise. Ice Emperor, he muttered inwardly. Last time when Ice Emperor appeared, they met in secret. Yet this time, Ice Emperor came through Sky-bearing City's door of 9 and made sure to wait in the sky. His actions were intentional. Ice Emperor, the human race's Ice Emperor. Ji Yao suddenly shouted. Hua Anyang of Sky Mender Palace suddenly flew into the air. When he reached Ice Emperor's side, he gave the bow of a junior and said respectfully, "Greetings, Senior Ice Emperor." Hua Anyang's voice was similarly loud. The human race's Ice Emperor. One of the three emperors, the Ice Emperor. The sage of the human race in person. The shouts of many martial practitioners came from the corners of Sky-bearing City. Many of the Sky-bearing City martial practitioners and artificers who did not belong to the Qin family felt excited. Many people were on the verge of tears. 20,000 years ago, the races of Spirit Realm worked together against the God race. The three emperors were the spiritual leaders of the human race. Any human had great respect and reverence towards the three emperors. Even the experts from the major gold rank forces were all unusually reverent when speaking of the three emperors. The existence of the three emperors established the foundations for the prosperity of the human race. They led the human race to force back the God race and gave the human race 20,000 years of prosperity. No one dared to refute the great accomplishments the three emperors had achieved for the human race. What did it mean when the Ice Emperor, one of the three emperors, appeared at Sky-bearing City when the God race was about to come back? Did the Qin family suddenly return to Sky-bearing City at the three emperors' wishes? Everyone was filled with puzzlement. Under the eyes of the public, the Ice Emperor smiled slightly and said in the direction of the Qin family hall, "The Qin family has worked hard." At such words, all of Sky-bearing City rippled again. All of the Qin family members, including the martial practitioners subordinate to the Qin family, laughed sincerely. Ice Emperor's words meant that the three emperors, represented by Ice Emperor, recognized the Qin family's efforts. This meant that Ice Emperor welcomed the return of the Qin family. Under the burning gaze of the Qin family, Ice Emperor frowned and suddenly looked outside the city. The martial practitioners of Sky-bearing City followed his gaze and instinctively looked into the distance. The strongest of them could see an open spatial entrance. Nearby they could see Peidahong, Hong Ju, and some others. The six forces. Many people stilled and suddenly smelled something unusual. They thought deeply. Ice Emperor frowned with a hint of coldness on his face. This was completely different from his attitude towards the Qin family. The message that this revealed was obvious. Before everyone could think deeply, Ice Emperor suddenly landed on the plaza where Qin Shan and Qin Lai were standing. He announced, "This is Spirit Realm, and the Qin family is an important part of the human race. Before the God race formally arrives, I feel that Sky-bearing City does not need a formation to protect the city." Qin Shan nodded and smiled. He said, "It is not necessary." At such words, the cursed progenitor who had merged into one with Sky-bearing City suddenly appeared beside Qin Lai. When the cursed progenitor appeared, the five-colored light surrounding Sky-bearing City slowly disappeared. Everyone could see bright flows of light merging into Sky-bearing City's ancient buildings, the ground, and the strange patterns on the city walls. Dozens of seconds later, Sky-bearing City was once again defenseless. Any person, any being could easily step into Sky-bearing City. Qin Lai clearly noticed the existence of Pei Dehong and the others. As Sky-bearing City took down the city-protecting formation, he looked outside the city towards where the martial practitioners of the six forces were. Days ago, Kong Kuan, Wu Nanchao, and the other Genesis realm experts of the six forces had done all they could to enter Sky-bearing City. Dan Yuanqing and Qin Lin had stopped them. The protecting formation of Sky-bearing City was a powerful deterrent. Then they got reinforcements and attempted once again. However, they also couldn't breach the formation. He knew that the martial practitioners of the six forces wanted to enter Sky-bearing City and massacre him and the Qin family. But the formation of Sky-bearing City possessed a special power that prevented them from taking a step in. They would probably be ecstatic to see this powerful formation disappear. Right now, the dreams of those people would be realized. At this moment, Pei Dehong, Hongju, and the other peak Genesis realm experts of the six forces were standing outside Sky-bearing City. They were the true leaders of the six forces. Qin Lai had a dark expression. He secretly activated his powers and prepared to turn into the Dark Soul Beast and fight at any moment. He was communicating in secret with his soul slaves and the Blood Soul Beast. Even his main body far in the flaming sun abyss stopped comprehending his bloodline. He did not know if those people outside the city would suddenly charge into Sky-bearing City in the next moment. Whoosh! The Ice Emperor, dressed in white, landed beside him and his grandfather. After landing, Ice Emperor exchanged a smile with Qin Shan but remained silent. The place they stood faced Pei Dehong and the others outside the city. They seemed to be waiting for Pei Dehong and the others to make a decision. The martial practitioners who had been cheering previously suddenly detected the heavy atmosphere and became silent. Martial practitioners floated in the air. They were from the Qin family, Sky-bearing City, the Ji family, and also people who had lived in Sky-bearing City for many years. They all felt nervous as though a storm was about to come. All of Sky-bearing City seemed to be silent. Everyone's attention gathered outside the city. Right now, Sky-bearing City was completely defenseless. Pei Dehong, Hongju, and the others were outside the city. This was a perfect opportunity for them to enter Sky-bearing City. On top of that, the strongest of the Qin family, Qin Hao, wasn't present. Only the white-robed Ice Emperor was standing beside Qin Shan and Qin Lai. The six forces peak experts led by Pei Dehong and Hongju had ugly expressions and uncertain gazes. They were silent for a long while. Most of them were looking at Pei Dehong, waiting for his decision. A long time ago, Pei Dehong took a deep breath, turned and said to everyone, "Let's go back." At his words, he was the first to enter the spatial entrance and disappear. The experts of the six forces seemed to sigh in relief and disappeared quickly. In a blink of an eye, experts of the six forces that had come turned back and vanished, along with their spatial entrance. Inside the city, Ice Emperor watched coldly as those people left. Then he shook his head in disappointment, a hint of disdain on his lips. He evaluated, as timid as before, not daring enough at the crucial moment. They cannot accomplish anything. Ninth Heaven. A dozen Genesis realm old people sat silently with dim expressions. They had just returned from Sky-bearing City. Ever since the six gold rank forces formed an alliance, they dominated in spirit realm and the other races even thought of them as the strongest. They had never been in as sorry a state as today. Retreat, without even fighting. They knew that Sky-bearing City had put down its city-protecting formation. They knew that Qin Hao was not in the city. They knew that the Qin family's forces could not all be in Sky-bearing City. But they did not dare to attack. Because there was someone inside Sky-bearing City that they did not want to face or offend, the human race's Ice Emperor. Pei Dehong and Hongju were all martial practitioners with 9-level soul altars. In terms of cultivation, they did not appear any weaker than Ice Emperor. Yet, in the face of the Ice Emperor, they felt hopeless. That's because rooted deep inside their hearts was pure terror towards the 3 emperors. The 3 emperors were the sages of the human race. The human race had created their present prosperity under the leadership of the 3 emperors. Without the 3 emperors, the human race and other spirit realm races would still be under God race's rule. Without the 3 emperors, there would be no prosperity or the present spirit realm. Brother Pei. Hongju licked his lips, his voice slightly hoarse as he stopped. The other Genesis realm elders looked silently at Pei Dehong, waiting for him to give a logical explanation. Pei Dehong's gaze was pained. He sighed and said, "With our strength, if we really attacked Sky-bearing City, even if Ice Emperor was present, we should be able to win." Then, Zhu Yang said curiously, "Ice Emperor represents the 3 emperors of the human race. They possess unrivaled standing among the human race. If we made an enemy out of the Ice Emperor..." Pei Dehong's expression was dark as he shook his head and said, "Then our reputation among the human race would fall greatly. All the second-tier gold rank forces loyal to us, including our own family members, think of the 3 emperors as the sages of the human race. If we became their enemies, we would lose their hearts. Even our own would be disappointed in us." At such words, everyone else became silent again. They knew that Pei Dehong's words were correct. Not just the factions that were subordinate to them, even most people in their families thought of the 3 emperors as heroes of the human race. The high standing of the 3 emperors in the human race was irreplaceable. Being enemies with the 3 emperors was being enemies with the human race. If they dared to treat the 3 emperors as enemies, if the news spread, they would first have internal problems. The second-tier gold rank forces subordinate to them, the silver rank forces, secluded experts, and many more would abandon them. The 3 emperors did not have to say a word. Just using their reputation, they could strike a great blow to the 6 forces. The strength they had worked to build for thousands of years would be destroyed in an instant. This was not what they wanted. If we cannot offend the 3 emperors, and they lean towards the Qin family, what should we do? Zhu Yang asked. Isn't the God race's profound ice family trapped in shattered ice realm right now? Pei Dehong said calmly and coldly. I think that Ice Emperor has reappeared because of the God race's invasion. You also saw that Ice Emperor went to stop the 2 Devil Kings when they appeared. Based on what I saw, they contacted the Qin family for the God race invasion. This means that the powers represented by the 3 emperors have come especially for the God race. I heard that Qin Hao went to Azura World to deal with the 2 Devil Kings at Ice Emperor's request. Pei Dehong paused. He laughed and said, Since they came for the God race, then we will let them face the God race. We will pull back our forces from Shattered Ice Realm. Hongju's eyes lit up. So you want them to face the God race if they can. And if they can't, they will have to come find us for help, right? Pei Dehong nodded slowly. What about the giant dragon race? Zhu Yang frowned. Affleck's clansmen are frozen by the profound ice family in the depths of Shattered Ice Realm. They are urging us to move fast and help release their fellow clansmen. Ignore them for now. Pei Dehong's expression did not change. Most of the giant dragons have been frozen after the God race's invasion. Even their rank 10 dragons have been captured. Their strength is significantly lower. Fighting with the profound ice family for the giant dragon race does not help our interests. In the current situation, we can afford to sacrifice the giant dragon race. The cunning elders of the 6 forces thought for a moment and then nodded expressionlessly. The giant dragon race, their strongest ally, was ruthlessly abandoned after being dealt a severe blow by the profound ice family. We just need a bit of patience, Pei Dehong said coolly. Let's do this for now. Sky-bearing city. A hard battle that people had expected did not occur due to the retreat of 6 forces old monsters. Cheers came from the silent and tense sky-bearing city after Pei Dehong and the others disappeared. Even the martial practitioners of the Ji family and Skymender Palace were howling excitedly with the Qin family. Many of the outsiders and artificers who lived here had smiles on their faces. They sighed inwardly in relief. No one wanted to fight the 6 gold rank forces so early. The city was boiling. But Qin Lai, his grandfather Qin Shan, and the Ice Emperor once again returned to the dim hall. "How is your situation over there?" Ice Emperor looked at Qin Lai, smiled slightly and said, "I heard. You have become the Abyss Creator." His eyes flashed with light as though a web was covering Qin Lai's entire body. He was only a dark soul beast avatar. But Qin Lai's body back in the flaming sun abyss felt as though he was seen through. He suddenly felt that Ice Emperor knew the secrets of his bloodline. "The abyss devils that challenged me are mostly dead. The ones that lived have become my followers." Qin Lai grinned. Ice Emperor was the only outsider in the hall. The others were his grandfather and his uncles he could trust completely. For some reason, he even felt instinctively that Ice Emperor had no malicious intent towards him. He did not try to keep secrets. "Not bad." Ice Emperor nodded with a smile. Qin Shan said with a benevolent look of love, "I also heard that it is called Flaming Sun Abyss. Since you have control of the Flaming Sun Abyss, maybe we can make some arrangements for it." An abyss level formed from an origin world. Ice Emperor rubbed his chin, thought for a moment, and his eyes lit up. He said, "If your bloodline can reach rank 10 one day, maybe you can turn the Flaming Sun Abyss into one of the purgatories. You might also become a devil monarch." He was very familiar with the secrets of the abyss. He knew about the existence of the 8 purgatories and the secret behind existence of the devil monarchs. This shocked Qin Lai. According to Dawson of the Frost Desolation Abyss, abyss devils would only learn the secret of how to become a devil monarch after reaching rank 10. Even many rank 9 lords of the abyss had no clue what was required to become a devil monarch of the 8 purgatories. But Ice Emperor of the human race knew the details. His grandfather also had a slight smile as though he had known this secret all along. This shocked Qin Lai even more. He suddenly realized that Ice Emperor and his grandfather's understanding of the universe was vaster than he imagined. "Little Lai, starting today, you do not have to build your soul altar level by level like the human race," Qin Shan said. "I don't need to build it level by level?" Qin Lai said in surprise. "Yes, your situation is special to begin with. Your soul altar has been from origin crystal, and thus it's even more special." Qin Shan smiled slightly. "Your 1-level soul altar corresponds with your abyss level and is full of potential. You only need to think of your Flaming Sun Abyss. You should imprint it with your understanding of power, your bloodline's secrets and laws of the universe you've comprehended. Your power and comprehension ability will both constantly increase as a result. That way, even if you only have a 1-level soul altar, your combat power will slowly surpass 2, then 3-level soul altar experts. One day, you will even surpass experts with 8 or 9-level soul altars. When your bloodline reaches rank 10, your soul altar will offer an additional boost of power in no way inferior to a late Genesis realm practitioner. Abyss devil energy, the spirit energy of spirit realm, and bloodline power are all just myriad manifestations of power. In the end, they are just different paths leading to the same destination. Qin Shan did not talk about unique properties of his soul, probably because of the Ice Emperor's presence. Qin Lai knew that his soul possessed traits of the soul race. Perhaps he had inherited the secrets of the soul progenitor and was unlike other people. Qin Shan changed the topic and asked the Ice Emperor, "How are your negotiations with the god race going?" Qin Lai's expression grew solemn. He heard Ice Emperor say that the other 2 emperors would communicate with the god race and use the profound ice family members trapped in Shattered Ice Realm to force the god race to promise not to invade Spirit Realm. They were threatening to kill the profound ice family members. "Not as I imagined." Ice Emperor sighed softly. Qin Shan frowned and said, "Do they plan to ignore the profound ice family members?" I am not clear about their general train of thought. Ice Emperor thought and said, the god race did not take a step back because of the profound Ice family. Also, their attitude is strong as though they have other plans. His face turned into a grimace. If we fight the god race, we have no hopes of victory. The strength of spirit realms races is an entire era behind the transcendent bloodline races. Unless we can greatly increase their strength in a short time, He shook his head and sighed. We have too little time. Xianxia had a helpless expression. There are several rank 10 bloodline warriors among the trapped profound Ice family members. I fear it will not be easy to defeat them. Ice Emperor thought for a moment. His expression turned cold. He said, and Pei Dehong and the others may not be of one mind with us. They will avoid hard battles like this. Just like in the past, they haven't changed. Xianxia said disdainfully. I received news that the spirit race will come soon, Qianlai added. Spirit race. Ice Emperor's brow furrowed. Xianxia sighed. It appears that spirit realm cannot avoid this calamity. I do not understand why those transcendent bloodline races have such sudden interest in spirit realm. Based on what I know, even the bone and winged races are interested in spirit realm, Qianlai said curiously. Our spirit realm contains some secrets, Ice Emperor said softly. Qianlai's eyes lit up and he attempted to ask for details. Xianxia waved a hand to indicate to him not to be urgent. He said, do not seek the truth now. When the time is right, I will tell you. Oh, Qianlai nodded. The present patriarch of the Blaze family had given him a message through Gon Xinghim for the peace of spirit realm. He hesitated and did not mention the matter. He couldn't mention this without exposing secrets of his bloodline. Ice Emperor was an outsider. He had too many questions about his bloodline, his mother, and Lian Yuan. But he could not discuss these questions in front of the Ice Emperor. Therefore, he maintained his silence and listened intently to his grandfather and the Ice Emperor to see what arrangements they would prepare for this calamity. Old Master Hua of Sky Mender Palace and the patriarch of the Ji family have arrived. At this time, Chunlin's figure flashed from outside the hall. He said, they heard you returned to Sky-bearing City and learned that Senior Ice Emperor has also arrived, so they immediately came. Xianxia stood and smiled slightly. He said, please let them in. When he stood up, Qianlai, Qin Yun, and Qin Yi all stood up and prepared to welcome the guests. Hua Tianqiong of Skymender Palace and Ji Dan of the Ji family were both 9-level soul altar experts, peak experts of the human race. Both of them were equal in strength to Pei Dehong. In terms of individual power, his grandfather Qianxia was not a match for Hua Tianqiong and Ji Dan because of his pursuit of artifact forging. Both had gold rank forces behind them. Qianlai was naturally careful and had to welcome them with respect. Inside the hall, only the Ice Emperor did not stand up because of Hua Tianqiong and Ji Dan's arrival. He was a sage of the human race. In terms of seniority, reputation, and individual power, he surpassed Hua Tianqiong and Ji Dan. With his identity, there was no one in the human race that he had to welcome personally. Ha ha ha! A loud laugh came from outside the hall. Then Hua Tianqiong, his face red, walked in. Hua Tianqiong was even taller than Hua Anyang and showed no signs of aging. Qianxia, you finally come back. Hua Tianqiong came in with a laugh. Behind him, the old monster of the Ji family, Ji Dan, was hunched over. He appeared short and nondescript. When Ji Dan saw Qianxia, he only smiled faintly but did not say anything. Time is right, so I came back. Qianxia smiled faintly and then said to Ji Dan, greetings, Senior Ji. The Ji family was one of the oldest families of the human race. Ji Dan was older than him and Hua Tianqiong by a great margin. Before the Qin family had developed, the Ji family had already been a gold rank force. At that time, Qianxia had been careful in interacting with Ji Dan. Ji Dan smiled and nodded. His gaze passed over and landed on Qianlai. He said, you are. He recognized Qianlai's appearance, but Qianlai's presence and soul were not the same. Qianlai said respectfully, this is my soul beast avatar. Ji Dan realized and nodded. He said with a smile, The younger generation is surpassing us. Senior, you are too humble, Qinlai said modestly. Jidan said with a smile. If not for you, the Ji family would not have decided to participate so early. As he spoke, he strolled past and stood in front of the Ice Emperor. He bowed respectfully. Senior, long time no see. It's really been a long time. Ice Emperor's voice turned emotional as he said, the words we said when we left, only you listened. In these years, the Ji family has never participated in fights of the gold rank forces. You did not fail our hopes. Jidan said seriously, battles between true gold rank forces will harm the foundations of the human race and cause the fall of Genesis Realm experts. Each Genesis Realm martial practitioner is a result of countless hardships and a mountain of precious resources. Each such death is a great blow to the human race. The battles between silver or second-tier gold rank forces are like a whetstone that can refine them. Their deaths are not a great loss to the human race. Our population is great, but the sacrifice of one Genesis realm is a calamity. Because I understand this, I have restrained the juniors of the Ji family so they would not participate in battles of top gold rank forces. This time, if not for Qinlai, the Ji family would have stayed neutral. He cultivates the heavenly thunder eradication, but also has your inheritance. I thought of him as extension of your will. In Sky-bearing City, the Qin family, Ji family, and Skymender Palace's elders discussed the future with the Ice Emperor. Qinlai and his uncles retreated from the hall due to their junior status. On the plaza, Ji Yao, Ji Yuan of the Ji family, Hua Anyang, and Hua Yuqi of Skymender Palace and the others were waiting. When Qin family came out, Hua Yuqi immediately came over with a grin on his face. He said, Brother Lai, I heard you killed the Han family? Your news are a bit out of date. Qinlai smiled coolly. Ha, I also heard that Han Qian's mother is in your hands? Hua Yuqi had a teasing smile. I've seen that woman before. She is a sea-race female, and much more beautiful than Han Qian. Isn't she? Qinlai was astounded. If Hua Yuqi had not mentioned it, he would have forgotten about Vanessa's existence. Ever since he sent that woman to Boluo Realm, he did not ask about her. He only prepared to take Vanessa out to humiliate Han Qian when he saw Han Qian in the future. He had not expected Hua Yuqi, his former fellow wastrel, knew that sea-race woman. I heard some news. Han Qian is in Rock Calamity Domain right now, and I, coincidentally, know a way to go Rock Calamity Domain. Hua Yuqi said with a dark expression. Qinlai's expression shifted. Last time, when he invaded Blue Snake Sea, he had heard some things about Rock Calamity Domain and knew that it was a realm under Ninth Heaven. Han Qian was responsible for Rock Calamity Domain. She killed the original races there and gradually developed her own forces there. Based on his judgment, there shouldn't be any Genesis Realm martial practitioners stationed in Rock Calamity Domain. He did not need to rely on any other forces. He only needed his 2 soul beast avatars and some soul servants to conquer Rock Calamity Domain. However, Rock Calamity Domain was the same as Boluo Realm and far from Spirit Realm. If he had to travel through the stars to reach Rock Calamity Domain, it would take a year or more. He had neither time nor desire for such a long trip. You have a way? He asked in a low voice. At this time, Ji Yao, Hua Anyang, and the others were talking with Qin Yun and Qin Yi. They did not notice him and Hua Yuqi talking together. Hua Yuqi snorted, his eyes showing hate. Back then, I wanted to get revenge for you and attempted to get into Rock Calamity Domain. But Han Qian captured me. She was wary of my grandfather and didn't dare to kill me, so she imprisoned me in Boluo Realm. She did this because she thought one day she could use my status to threaten us to stand with her. That woman is evil and has never been easy to deal with. Since I returned from Boluo Realm, I have been seeking a way to Rock Calamity Domain because I have not given up. I really managed to find a way. Qinlai narrowed his eyes. Are you sure we can reach Rock Calamity Domain? And that woman is in Rock Calamity Domain right now? I am very sure. Hua Yuqi laughed lowly and said, Ninth Heaven knows that you are in Sky-bearing City. Since you have returned to Central World, you would do all you can to defeat her. The Han family of Blue Snake Sea is an example. Before the situation is clear, Ninth Heaven feared that she couldn't resist seeking revenge and arranged for her to stay in Rock Calamity domain. He grinned and said, "Right now, even the Ice Emperor is on our side. We can capture Rock Calamity domain where she is, to celebrate the return of the Qin family to Sky-bearing City." Qin Lai nodded slowly. 3 centuries ago, the Qin family was forced out of Sky-bearing City because Han Qian had conspired against him. Han Qian was the fuse in Ninth Heaven's plan. After many years, he was in Sky-bearing City, and the Qin family returned to Spirit Realm. That was the time to settle this debt. He was sure that when he destroyed that black hole in the Abyss passageway connected to Shattered Ice Realm, the God race should not be able to enter Spirit Realm in the next 2 years. This meant he did not need to worry about the God race for 2 years. He had 2 years to consider what Lian Zhao had told him through Gongxing. In these 2 years, he could wash away his and the Qin family's humiliations in the Central World. Right now, he could let Han Qian become the fuse for his challenge of Ninth Heaven. "How we do get to Rock Calamity domain?" he asked. Hua Yuqi stilled. "Don't you need to prepare?" "Prepare." Qin Lai shook his head and said, "No need. I mean, manpower. Just the 2 of us." Hua Yuqi grimaced. "Once we're there Rock Calamity domain, I can arrange for enough helpers." "Do not worry," Qin Lai said with a smile. "So that's how it is." Hua Yuqi thought for a moment and said, "If you decide to move now, come with me to the Ji family first." "Let's go," Qin Lai urged. Hua Yuqi glanced at his father and suddenly became slightly fearful. The God race is still in Shattered Ice Realm right now. Is it appropriate for us to attack Rock Calamity domain right now? He hesitated as push came to shove. This meant that he had matured after so many events. "Do not worry. I have confidence there will be no trouble." Qin Lai had a sneer on his face. "Han Qian is only in the imperishable realm. She only has potential in the eyes of Ninth Heaven's old men. I do not feel that those old people will think of Han Qian as so important. Pei Dehong's own son Pei Tianming died by my hands. Ninth Heaven still couldn't do anything to me. Is Han Qian more important than Pei Tianming? Definitely not," Hua Yuqi said. "You see? I dared to kill even Pei Tianming and I'm still safe. What is Han Qian?" Qin Lai said coldly. "All right, I trust you." Hua Yuqi laughed softly. Then he and Qin Lai sneaked past Hua Anyang, Ji Yao and the others on their way to the teleportation formation of Sky-bearing City. "Where are you 2 sneaking out to?" Miao Yitzi appeared from nowhere in front of them. "You are going to the teleportation formations? Brother Lai has not returned to Central World for a long time. I'm taking him around." Hua Yuqi smiled timidly. He appeared very terrified and timid in front of Miao Yitzi. In the past, Miao Yitzi disliked him and Qin Lai. She didn't like them doing everything together. Miao Yitzi thought that he had pulled Qin Lai astray. Qin Lai, who had completely changed, was fearless facing Miao Yitzi. He said, "We are just taking a stroll." "Taking a stroll? This is your soul beast avatar." Miao Yitzi snorted. Hua Yuqi could not see that the Qin Lai in front of him was the transformed Dark Soul Beast. She was a 6th-level soul altar expert, and immediately saw through him. "Based on my knowledge, you don't move your Dark Soul Beast avatar without a reason. And when you do, something big happens." Not waiting for Qin Lai to answer, she frowned and urged, "The situation is sensitive now. Can you not be so impulsive?" She seemed to guess Qin Lai and Hua Yuqi's intentions. Hua Yuqi looked like he was facing a tiger in front of Miao Yitzi. The only thing he could do was laugh awkwardly again and again. It was because he was afraid of her from the bottom of his heart. But Qin Lai was different. "I know what I'm doing, Aunt Miao. I won't go overboard," he said calmly. Miao Yitzi shot him a cold glance before she turned to look at Hua Yuqi again. "I heard that you've been asking about a secret route to Rock Calamity domain lately?" Hua Yuqi forced a smile on his face and denied. "No, I haven't." "No?" Miao Yitzi let out a snort before continuing. "You shouldn't think yourself clever. From what I heard, there's at least one Genesis Realm martial practitioner who's guarding Rock Calamity domain right now. It's entirely possible that they're waiting for someone to walk into their trap. don't you think? How is that possible? Hua Yuqi turned pale with shock. Qin Lai furrowed his eyebrows and asked, "Who is that Genesis Realm martial practitioner?" "I don't know who it is either." Miao Yitzi shook her head. "But I'm guessing someone noticed this idiot's prying, which was why such an arrangement had been made." The woman shot a glare at Hua Yuqi. It was obvious who was the idiot she had mentioned. "I believe their true target is you, Qin Lai." She finally turned to look back at Qin Lai. "Brother Lai, I didn't know." Hua Yuqi hurriedly tried to explain himself, but Qin Lai waved him off and said, "You don't have to explain. Of course I trust you." Hua Yuqi let out a secret sigh of relief when he heard that. Miao Yitzi's frowned deeply as she continued. "In fact, the secret route to Rock Calamity Domain he found was probably something those fellows had purposely leaked in the first place. I dare say that you'll be facing the full might of a Genesis Realm expert the second you show your face there. And that girl Han Qian is probably waiting for you to fall into their trap as well. Ask yourself, has Hua Yuqi ever out-tricked Han Qian in his whole life? Hasn't he been played like a fiddle every time by that woman? If you believe his plans blindly, you may fall to that girl's schemes again just like 300 years ago." Hua Yuqi looked very embarrassed. He scratched his head with an unsure look on his face. "Well, I've told you the situation. You should be the one to decide what you should next," Miao Yitzi said. Qin Lai nodded slowly at her. Miao Yitzi gave him a deep look before adding, "Knowing your current experience and temperament, I trust you to come up with an appropriate plan now that you know the truth." Then, she turned sideways and opened up the path. It was a shock to Hua Yuqi. For some reason, she had decided not to stop them from leaving. Hua Yuqi was clearly caught off guard by her strange decision. After all, she was clearly aware that a trap was awaiting both him and Qin Lai at Rock Calamity Domain. However, she didn't try to stop them by force. If this was in the past, Miao Yitzi would never have allowed Qin Lai to leave with Hua Yuqi, and she would have been twice as stubborn after learning the real situation. "I thank you for your advice, Aunt Miao," Qin Lai said sincerely. Then, he beckoned Hua Yuqi to follow him with his eyes and passed by Miao Yitzi, heading straight for the teleportation formation. "What are you waiting for?" Miao Yitzi snorted coldly. Hua Yuqi finally broke out of his reverie and forced out a laugh. Then, he hurriedly flew after Qin Lai. After the duo had vanished from the teleportation formation, Chun Lin suddenly appeared behind Miao Yitzi. "Truth be told, the young master would have done just fine without your advice." The older man stared at the teleportation formation with eyes that were full of trust. "Right now, our young master is intelligent and capable enough to face anything that might be waiting for him at Rock Calamity Domain. It doesn't matter how many ploys or traps Han Qian had laid for Qin Lai. They mean nothing before absolute strength." "Perhaps," Miao Yitzi replied noncommittally. "Still, having a better grasp of the situation should make things a little easier for him." Chun Lin nodded slightly before replying, "We should let him deal with his debt alone. We don't need to interfere." "Are we sure it's all going to be fine?" Miao Yitzi asked. Chun Lin smiled affirmatively in response. "Yes, it will." Miao Yitzi stopped questioning after that. At the Flaming Sun Abyss, Qin Lai in his devilized form was sitting quietly inside the Origin Sea when he suddenly opened his eyes. A series of cracks suddenly popped out of his bones. His devilized body was 3 meters tall, but he was shrinking after he had withdrawn his Abyss Devil race bloodline. A while later, he had returned to his normal height. It had been a dozen or so days since Betty, Indigo, and the Abyss Devils had left. He had been refining Locke and the other sacrificial ghost purgatories Abyss Devils' hearts with his devil-devouring ability during this time. After the Abyss Devil race bloodline residing in his second heart had obtained a number of Abyss Devil imprints, even more secrets of the Abyss Devil race bloodline had opened up to him. Unfortunately, Locke and the rest of the Abyss Devils were only at rank 8. A rank 8 Abyss Devil was no Lord of the Abyss, so the amount of bloodline secret arts and power their Abyss Devil hearts contained were extremely limited. That was why he hadn't been able to awaken any new bloodline ability despite absorbing their Abyss Devil hearts. All he had gained was more secrets of the Abyss Devil race. The good news, however, was that his soul altar had been gradually affecting Flaming Sun Abyss while he was sitting inside the Origin Sea. Somehow, the natural laws and secrets residing inside his soul altar were able to gradually change the world around him through the Origin Sea. As the creator of the Flaming Sun Abyss, he could sense that the Abyss Devil energy in some regions was undergoing series of changes. In some regions, the Abyss Devil energy had either become as hot as fire or as cold as frost. There were also regions where the Abyss Devil energy seemed to be concocting the beginnings of a thunderous storm. Even the gravity field at the bottom of the earth was undergoing a series of wondrous changes. The secrets of power imprinted in his soul altar were slowly but surely shaping Flaming Sun Abyss to suit him. At the same time, his soul and his comprehension of the laws of various powers were also deepening day by day. It was a win-win situation for him. Suddenly, Qin Lai recalled his grandfather's words. His soul was special, and his physical body was incredibly rare. Unlike other human martial practitioners, he didn't need to build his soul altar brick by brick at all. It was because he had refined an origin crystal into his soul altar. It didn't matter if his soul altar consisted of only one level. All he needed to do was to deepen his understanding of the secrets of power and imprint even more secret arts and knowledge onto his one-level soul altar. One day, it would eventually become as effective and powerful as any other 9-level soul altar. His one-level soul altar was deeply tied to his bloodline, his soul, and the Flaming Sun Abyss. All he needed to do was to keep studying and learning. Qin Lai broke away from his thoughts, stood up and opened a star door. In the next moment, he had arrived at Zhuangjing's room at Baluo Realm. "Master!" Zhuangjing exclaimed in pleasant surprise. Qin Lai gave her a nod, but didn't say anything. He then vanished from sight a second later. Zhuangjing looked disappointed as she stopped cultivating and walked out of her private cultivation room. Lin Jie was also walking out of another cultivation room after hearing the commotion. "Where is he?" "He just left." Zhuangjing sighed softly. Lin Jie was looking sad and sighing inside her mind as well. A very long time ago, she had rejected the idea of becoming Qin Lai's soul servant and losing her freedom. But as time passed, she had changed her mind and even dropped hints through Zhuangjing. Unfortunately, Qin Lai had ignored them all. Not only that, Zhuangjing herself had rarely gotten a chance to see Qin Lai. "He doesn't belong to us." Zhuangjing smiled bitterly before continuing. "We had our chance to catch him in our grasp, but we were unlucky. We were enemies with him since the day we met. Maybe it was already over the day we met him. But who could have expected a failure from 300 years ago to come this far?" Lin Jie said helplessly. The girls had been paying attention to the news from the central world lately, so they were aware that Qin Lai had showed himself openly at Sky-Bearing City and acquired the Ji family and Sky-Mender Palace's approval. They even heard that the Ice Emperor himself had rated Qin Lai highly and viewed him as the new star of humanity after Qin Hao. Today, Qin Lai had completely washed away his infamy from many years ago. He was now a glowing star and the brightest junior in Spirit Realm. They were very happy for Qin Lai, but they couldn't help but be disappointed in themselves for not grabbing onto their chance when they could. Meanwhile, Qin Lai had arrived at Seven Spirits Islands while being accompanied by Song Tingyu and Tang Siki. "A lot of people have returned to the land of chaos, haven't they?" Qin Lai asked. Song Tingyu replied with a smile. "Yes, all the silver rank forces had moved back to the land of chaos after hearing that it's safe. Both of you can return to the Flaming Sun Island if you want to, Qin Lai said. "We don't want to return to the Flaming Sun Island anymore. We wish to head straight to the Central World. What do you think?" Song Tingyu looked a little red in the cheeks. She knew that the Qin family had returned to Sky-Bearing City. Both her and Tang Siki had thought that it was maybe time for them to meet with the seniors of the Qin family and confirm their status. Tang Siki had bowed her head all of a sudden as well. "I'll bring you both back to Sky-Bearing City once I've dealt with a certain matter," Qin Lai promised. Both women suddenly lit up in joy. "About Miss Ling, right now she's—" Tang Siki bit her lower lip, looking a little worried. She seemed afraid of putting Qin Lai in a tight spot. She was aware that Ling Yushi was the real daughter-in-law Qin Lai's grandfather had approved, of course. She was also aware that both her and Song Tingyu were only Qin Lai's wives in name. Many years ago, Qin Lai's grandfather had brought Qin Lai to lead a secluded life in Ling Town. At first, Qin Lai was supposed to be engaged to Ling Xianxia. Later on, it was changed to Ling Yushi due to certain special reasons. The Ling family had the blood of Nether Realm's royal family inside them. In fact, they were supposed to be the original leaders of Nether Realm. Later on, Ling Yushi successfully obtained the Horn Demon, Dark Shadow, and Ghost Eye races' acknowledgement and became the Queen of Nether Realm. She was both dignified and powerful in her own right. Both Song Tingyu and Tang Siki were aware that they couldn't compare to Ling Yushi. This was especially true after they learned that Ling Yushi was acknowledged by the Devil Monarch of Nine Hells Purgatory himself. She had taken her family and the Nether Realm races into Nine Hells Purgatory with her. It meant that Ling Yushi's status was only going to be even higher from here on. In their opinion, the gap between Ling Yushi and them was only growing day by day. That was why they were less confident about themselves, and they didn't know about Qin Lai's current opinion about them. They weren't sure if Qin Lai was willing to bring them into Sky-bearing City and introduce them to the Qin family. That was why they had tried to sound out Qin Lai's thoughts. They wanted to know about his true opinion. She's currently at Nine Hells Purgatory. Not even I can contact her at the moment. Qin Lai thought to himself for a moment before smiling at them. You two have nothing to worry about. I'll send you to Sky-bearing City right away once I'm done with this matter. We can stay in Baluo Realm or the Land of Chaos if it isn't convenient for you. Song Tingyu replied softly. Nothing of the sort. Qin Lai shook his head in response. It was at this moment a soul message suddenly appeared in his mind. I'll be taking my leave, he said softly. Then, Qin Lai opened a star door and passed to the other side. He instantly reached the deep sea region where the sea race of Baluo Realm was living in. The deep blue sea was covered in many islands. Right now, Qin Lai was standing on one of those islands. An Azura race soul servant was waiting for him respectfully at the side. The moment Qin Lai had emerged, he said, Well met, master. Qin Lai nodded at him before waving a hand. You may return. The Azura race soul servant obeyed his orders and immediately left. On the island, Haley of Baluo Realm's sea race and Vanessa were standing side by side. Although they were both sea race clansmen and females, Vanessa's beauty and grace were leagues ahead of Haley's. Vanessa was already incredibly beautiful in the first place, and she seemed to have become a dozen or so years younger after absorbing her adoptive mother's refined soul and bloodline completely. As a result, Vanessa had grown a lot more charming and alluring. Every frown and smile she made seemed to exude natural charm. As Han Qian's mother, Vanessa clearly resembled her daughter in terms of appearance. This was especially true after she had become younger. However, she also looked more mature and attractive than Han Qian, like a blooming flower. Beautiful, dignified, charming, and rank 9 sea race bloodline. Right now, Vanessa was undoubtedly a sexy creature who attracted the attention of many males. Haley seemed completely unremarkable compared to her. Qin Lai, you came at just the right moment. I was just about to go look for you. Haley seemed to be in a good mood. She smiled in a friendly manner at Qin Lai immediately after the Azura race soul servant had left before grabbing Vanessa's hand. First, allow me to thank you on behalf of the old patriarch of the sea race for rescuing her from Blue Snake Sea. Old patriarch of the sea race? Qin Lai looked surprised. Haley straightened her face and said to the sea next to the island, Uncle. Qin Lai's expression moved a little. A hunchbacked old man with a human appearance at the top and a fishtail at the bottom slowly floated to the surface while holding a walking stick. The moment he left the sea, the fishtail slowly transformed into a pair of human legs. This meant that he looked just like a human on the surface. Qin Lai subconsciously glanced at Vanessa once the old man rose from the sea and transformed his fishtail into a pair of human legs. Vanessa also had a pair of human legs beneath her thin waist. Obviously, this was the sea race's version of transformation bloodline ability. The sea race beauty looked a little uncomfortable because of his gaze. Vanessa subconsciously pressed her legs tighter. "Haley, is this Qin Lai of the Qin family?" asked the sea race upon landing on the island, his gaze immediately locking on to the nearby youth. "He is our contact, not the Qin family." Haley smiled brightly before introducing her uncle to Qin Lai. "This is my uncle. He's the former patriarch of the sea race and Vanessa's birth father." Vanessa's eyes reddened a little. She moved away from Haley and walked next to the old man, holding him gently. Slightly surprised, Qin Lai hurriedly said, "Well met, senior." He hadn't expected Haley to invite the sea race's former patriarch over, and he definitely hadn't expected Vanessa to be his daughter. The old man before him had disjointed bloodline aura and was in poor spirits. It was clear that he had taken an unrecoverable blow in the past. The old man used to be a rank 10 bloodline warrior. However, he had declined all the way to rank 8. Moreover, he seemed to be losing bloodline aura with every passing second. This meant that his bloodline power was going to fall even further. "I was wounded quite badly in the past. Although I had somehow survived the experience, I doubt I'll ever be able to return to my peak even when I'm dead." The sea race old man smiled before continuing. "Thank you for killing those two and freeing Vanessa from Blue Snake Sea. I will remember everything that you've done until the day I die." "You're welcome," Qin Lai said calmly. He might have saved Vanessa out of pity for her circumstances, but it wasn't like he had done it purely out of the good intentions in his heart. Originally, he was planning to use Vanessa to attack Han Xian. However, he hadn't expected Vanessa to turn out to be the former patriarch's daughter, and he hadn't known that Haley and Vanessa had become so close until just now. This meant that he would have to change his plans. He had heard a little about this sea race old man before. He knew that he used to be the strongest of the 5 Sea Kings. Unfortunately, the old man was attacked by 3 other Sea Kings during a civil war. It was rumored that he had died in battle after a terrible loss. There was no news regarding the old man since. "I'll be direct with you." The old man pondered for a moment before starting. "I will raise Vanessa to become the next patriarch if the Qin family promises me to kill 3 of the Sea Kings of the Sea race. The other 2 are loyal to me even though they're Sea Kings now, so nothing needs to be done about them. If you succeed, I promise you that the Sea race will be the Qin family's staunchest ally, and that we will always stand by your side for as long as Vanessa is patriarch of the Sea race." "You want to kill 3 out of 5 of the current Sea Kings?" Qin Lai frowned. "The strongest of the 5, yes," Haley added. Qin Lai fell silent. "Would you like me to speak with the Qin family's person in charge, if you can't make a decision?" the sea race old man asked. Qin Lai was caught off guard by the question. Then, he let out a chuckle before answering, "That's not a bad idea. You should speak with the Qin family yourself then." The old man had asked if he was Qin Lai of the Qin family when he had first arrived. It was clear that the old man cared more about his identity within the Qin family than himself. Moreover, the old man had only shown respect to the Qin family in his speech since the beginning of the conversation. He seemed to think of him as a young, immature boy whose achievements had been the product of the Qin family's secret support. To put it bluntly, the old man thought that the entire matter had been a boon from the Qin family. The old man was the sea race's former patriarch. He thought that he should discuss something this important with a person in charge within the Qin family directly, not a junior of the 3rd generation like Qin Lai. "Uncle." Haley wore an urgent look as she said hurriedly, "I told you that our contact is Qin Lai, not the Qin family." She could see the displeasure in Qin Lai's eyes. Compared to the old man, Haley had better knowledge of Qin Lai's capabilities. She knew that Qin Lai had obtained everything he had obtained in Boluo realm through his own power. He had never relied on the Qin family even once throughout the process. Moreover, she had gone to the Frost Desolation Abyss before. She knew that Qin Lai had amassed a colossal amount of power in that abyss level. She knew very well that Qin Lai had achieved everything he had today through his own sweat and blood. That was why the young Qin Lai was worth investing more than the Qin family in her eyes. "If there's nothing else, then I shall be taking my leave." Qin Lai shrugged once and took off. He didn't look like he would miss them at all. "How impolite," the sea race old man muttered while frowning. "You shouldn't have said it like that, uncle." After Qianlai had left, Haley let out a sigh and said worriedly, "Qianlai is different from what you think." "How so?" The former Sea Race patriarch, Spid, asked doubtfully. Back when he was still at rank 10 Bloodline and the patriarch of the Sea Race, he was known as a well-respected person throughout Spirit Realm. In the past, even the Qin family would have been beneath his attention. He had his own pride, so to speak. That was why he had thought that it wasn't right of the Qin family to send a third-generation child over to discuss with him about something this important. He thought that Qianlai should have contacted a senior of the Qin family and the people in charge and requested them to meet him here immediately. In his mind, Qianlai was a boy who had emerged to importance only because he had the backing of the Qin family. He truly didn't think that Qianlai was deserving of a meeting with him. "Father, maybe..." "Sister Haley is correct," Vanessa said quietly. Spid was caught off guard by her remark as he stared back and forth between the two women. "You can't seriously think that that boy can make a decision on behalf of the Qin family?" Before Haley and Vanessa could make a reply, a disdainful smile crossed his face before he commented uncaringly, "Even if the god race's bloodline does flow within his veins, he's just at rank 8 bloodline. It's not like I've never met a rank 8 god race clansman in my life, and they didn't look all that special to me. Plus, he's just a mixed blood. I don't think he's capable of unleashing the full power of the god race bloodline." He then looked up and added, "I know he's been quite famous recently, but that's just the Qin family pulling strings from behind the scenes, don't you think?" "Uncle, you don't know anything about him because you've never dealt with him before," Haley said bitterly. Vanessa also contributed her thoughts seriously after a moment. "He really is no small fry, father. Back at Blue Snake Sea, she had fought Qianlai briefly but failed to gain any upper hand at all. Her bloodline was rank 9 at the time. Moreover, she had seen the respect in the soul servant's eyes every time they looked at him. Qianlai. She was certain that Qianlai was nothing like her father had imagined." Spitz smiled at them but continued uncaringly, "It doesn't matter. Let's move on to the next topic. Anyway, you girls have nothing to worry about. I've already made another arrangement beforehand." "Another arrangement?" Haley looked slightly moved. "Pina should be arriving very soon." Spitz smiled. Both Haley and Vanessa were surprised when they heard this. They all fell silent as they waited for Pina to arrive. As promised, a woman with a human face but a snake's body soon appeared from the distant horizon. "See King Pina," Haley exclaimed. Vanessa was hiding her surprise as well. "Well met, old patriarch." Pina dropped down from the sky and bowed respectfully towards Spid. Not long ago, she was standing together with Pei Dehong and Hong Ju, making preparations to fight against the profound ice family at the edge of Shattered Ice Realm. But since the human experts of the 6 great forces had retreated from Shattered Ice Realm, she had no reason to stay there any longer. As a Sea King, Pina had many ways to contact the Qin family directly. She had done exactly that just moments ago. "So, what did the Qin family say?" Spid asked a little nervously. After learning that the human experts of 6 great forces had retreated from Shattered Ice Realm one after another, he had secretly requested Pina to send a message to the Qin family on his behalf. Just like he had told Qianlai earlier, he would support the Qin family and raise Vanessa as the next patriarch if they promised to eliminate the 3 Sea Kings who had opposed him. It was true that the Sea Race wasn't as strong as the Ancient Beast Race or the Dragon Race, but they were a very important race out of all the foreign races that exists in Spirit Realm. He thought that the Qin family would be interested in making a deal with him. However, his expectant gaze was met with a look of bitterness from Pina. She shook her head and said, "The Qin family said that they're not interested in interfering with the Sea Race's internal affairs." The light in Spid's eyes instantly dimmed. He asked anxiously, "Why would they not be interested in this? The Sea Race will be their firm ally if they're willing to help us. There's no way they're not interested in the slightest." "I'm not sure why myself," Pina sighed. "Roar." It was at this moment an earth-shaking roar suddenly came from the distance. A lush forest far away from the island suddenly glowed brightly with golden light and imposing aura. Then, a golden giant who looked as tall as the sky above their heads climbed up to his feet and towered over the forest. Qin Lai himself was floating next to the golden giant with a smile on his face. Why haven't you visited us while you were passing through our borders? Qin Lai, Banderas's voice was as loud as thunder, and every time he spoke the nearby sky seemed to be shivering with golden light. You are the giant race's most respected guest and my best friend. You simply must give me the opportunity to thank you while you're still here. It's all thanks to you that I was able to return from the Frost Desolation Abyss after my bloodline had reached rank 10. If it wasn't for you, the great lord of the Frost Desolation Abyss Dawson wouldn't have allowed me to return safe and sound. In the future, even more giants will be heading to the Frost Desolation Abyss to battle. Please take care of them when the time comes. Okay? If you need me for anything, just say a word and I, Banderas, will do my best to help you. I heard that the Qin family have engaged the human race's 6 great forces in war recently. Give me a word, and I will head over to Spirit Realm to aid you right now. Banderas's voice was so loud that everyone could literally hear his conversation with Qin Lai. On the other hand, Qin Lai was speaking in his usual volume. While Banderas was perfectly capable of hearing Qin Lai, neither Spid nor Haley were in range to hear the latter's responses. Therefore, all they could hear was Banderas inviting Qin Lai very passionately to be a guest in the giant race. However, the one-sided conversation had revealed several shocking news to them. For one, Banderas had reached rank 10 in the Frost Desolation Abyss. This meant that he had probably become the strongest existence in Boluo realm. The giant race was one of the strongest races in the world to begin with, so giant race clansman like Banderas was way stronger than someone like Pina, even at equal bloodline rank. But as powerful he might be, Banderas had greeted Qin Lai so passionately that it was almost like he was doing his best to flatter the boy. Moreover, he also made it clear that he was willing to fight against the humans' 6 great forces for Qin Lai, not the Qin family. The old patriarch looked stunned by Banderas's words. It took him a long while before he recovered from his shock and asked, "Who is Dawson?" "He's the strongest great lord of the Frost Desolation Abyss and a rank 10 Abyss Devil. His strength is comparable to that of those rank 10 God race experts of the War of the 100 Races." Haley had fought in the Frost Desolation Abyss before, so obviously she was rather informed of the situation over there. She gave him a bitter smile before saying, "One Dawson is enough to—" She shot a glance at Pina and hesitated for a moment. Ultimately, she decided to finish her sentence anyway and said, "Kill all 5 of our Sea Kings with ease." Spid's expression changed drastically when he heard this. Surprisingly, Pina didn't look angry. In fact, she was wearing a look of fear on her face. It is true that the strongest of the Abyss Devils have the strength to do so. I can't deny that. It was because she had recalled her encounter with Terror Devil King and Despair Devil King at Shattered Ice Realm just a while ago. The memory made her feel cold from head to toe. If the Ice Emperor hadn't arrived back then, they probably would have suffered tremendous losses. That was why she thought that it was perfectly normal for Dawson, a great Abyss Devil like Despair Devil King, to kill all 5 of their Sea Kings with ease. That giant said that Qin Lai's word was the only reason Dawson had allowed him to go free? It wasn't my ears playing tricks on me, was it? Spid asked again. Haley, Vanessa, and Pina all shook their heads bitterly and proved him right. How did he come to possess so much power? Spid exclaimed. Uncle, the entrance to the Frost Desolation Abyss belongs to Qin Lai, not the Qin family. Haley hesitated for a moment before explaining. You haven't been to the Frost Desolation Abyss before, so you have no idea how many terrifying corpse demons he had accumulated at the Frost Desolation Abyss. Those corpse demons are all made up of rank 7 and rank 8 Abyss Devils, and I highly doubt that any one of the gold rank forces would be able to resist them if they were to be deployed in Spirit Realm. Moreover, he has been making contact with various Outer Realm races in the Frost Desolation Abyss. The G family, Sky Mender Palace, and the Qin family had to beg him to gain access. You haven't figured out the situation at all, Uncle. Haley smiled bitterly. Haley's reply caused Spid to shake all over. Then, he suddenly flew towards the giant race's territory in haste. Uncle, what are you doing? Haley asked urgently. I'm heading over to beg for his forgiveness. An outsider who was below rank 10 wouldn't catch attention of the great Lord of the Abyss, no matter how valiantly they fought. However, the same couldn't be said if they were at rank 10 when they visited or had reached rank 10 while they were still in the Abyss. In this case, they had to face other great lords of the Abyss. It was one of the most fundamental laws that existed in the Abyss. Banderas had ascended to rank 10 in the Frost Desolation Abyss, and it wouldn't have been hard for Dawson to kill him back then. So Qianlai was definitely the reason why he had been able to leave Frost Desolation Abyss safely. Dawson had wanted to stay in good terms with Qianlai, and to that end he had allowed Banderas to get away. That was why Banderas was grateful to Qianlai. Without Qianlai, he knew that his giant race wouldn't have been able to enter the Frost Desolation Abyss in the first place. That was why Banderas had showed himself and strongly requested Qianlai to be a guest when the latter was flying through their airspace. The second leader of the giant race, the rank 9 Campbell, had also rushed over after hearing the commotion. The giant race's habitat was filled with ancient trees as tall as the sky itself. There were a lot of giants scattered inside the forest, dozing off or teaching their offspring the secrets of their bloodline. Qianlai had accompanied Banderas to a wide square inside the forest. There were a couple of simplistic-looking stone palaces on the field. The buildings were made out of rocks, and they looked as tall as mountains. However, their design was extremely rough and plain. It was very much like the giant race to build such crude things. "So, why have you come, Qianlai?" Meanwhile, Campbell was running over from a distant road. His footsteps were so heavy that the ground around him was shaking with every step. Campbell was a golden giant himself, but he was only at rank 9. He had been fighting at the Frost Desolation Abyss until he got unlucky and got himself hurt by a Lord of the Abyss. That was why Campbell had been resting in Boluo Realm as of late. He was hoping to enter the Frost Desolation Abyss again after he had regained his strength. He was very envious of Banderas since the latter had managed to kill a Lord of the Abyss, swallow their heart and ascend to rank 10. He wanted to build a good relationship with Qianlai too. A lot of giant race children and women moved to pay Qianlai their respects after receiving hints from Banderas and Campbell. "Remember, this man here is our benefactor. From here on, we'll all be heading to the Abyss to improve our bloodline through battle." Banderas shouted so loudly that the earth itself seemed to be shaking. "His name is Qianlai. He is our eternal friend. It's all thanks to him the giant race is able to hold steady in Boluo Realm," Campbell also said. The children of the giant race and some of the warriors joined in on the cheer when they heard the roars of their two strongest experts. Their eyes were filled with respect. "If you need me, I can head to Spirit Realm and fight for the Qin family anytime you wish," Banderas promised seriously. Qianlai smiled. "Things are still quiet for now. I'll call upon your help later." "Eh?" Suddenly, Campbell frowned and looked beyond the forest. "What are the sea race fellows doing here?" Banderas was looking confused as well. Qianlai's face was an expressionless mask. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, a couple of figures dropped down from the sky and landed on the giant race's stone houses and palaces. They were Spid, Haley, Vanessa, and Pina. They wisely chose to take to the ground. In the giant race's eyes, the sea race clansmen looked like worms standing on their open square. Qianlai was the only one who was permitted to stand on Banderas's shoulders because he had won their acknowledgement and respect. That was why Qianlai was given the privilege to look down on Spid and the others. Spid looked up to Qianlai and asked embarrassedly, "Can we speak again, Qianlai? I wasn't clear about the situation just now." "Forget it. There's nothing to talk about." Qianlai shook his head while replying indifferently, "You should seek out a Qin family member instead." Banderas immediately figured out that something unpleasant must have occurred between Qianlai and these sea race clansmen, judging from Qianlai's expression alone. To avoid souring Qianlai's feelings, Banderas let out a cold snort before he shooed them away suddenly. "Please, leave right now. We, the giant race, do not welcome you." To him, the rank 10 Sea King Pina was irrelevant. They were both at rank 10, and he was confident that he could easily beat her in a fight. After all, there was a huge chasm between rank 10 clansmen of the giant and sea races. That's not to mention that they were in their own territory. Pina's water-related powers were even less effective there. Spid's expression turned painful. Not long ago, he had looked down on Qianlai because he was too young. But that didn't mean he dared to look down on the rank 10 giant race clansmen standing before him. Even when he was at peak strength and health, he wasn't sure that he could defeat a golden giant, let alone now. Qianlai looked calm and unaffected. He looked towards the distance as if he hadn't heard Banderas or noticed the situation going on down on the ground. Campbell immediately understood what he needed to do after seeing Qianlai's attitude. He then shouted like an infernal deity, "Haley, if you don't leave now, I will treat this as a provocation by the sea race." Haley's face immediately turned white with panic. Vanessa had turned pale as well. She knew that the giant race's forceful attitude was completely due to Qianlai. If Qianlai was willing to open his mouth, surely the two golden giants wouldn't act as rudely as they did. But if Qianlai refused to say a word, then there was nothing they could do but leave in shame. There was no way they could continue to stay. "Haley, you remember those sea race clansmen you've sent to the Frost Desolation Abyss? You should recall them all. From here on, no sea race clansman is allowed to do battle in the Frost Desolation Abyss." Qianlai finally looked downward at the group. "Also, if you think Baluo realm isn't suited for the sea race, you may take your leave any time." He then looked at Pina and continued, "According to my knowledge, the 5 sea kings of the sea race are still allied to the 6 great human forces. Therefore, the sea race is my enemy. For the longest time, the 6 great human forces had tried to invade Baluo realm and wipe out every living being in this place. That was why Baluo realm had decided to treat them as the enemy as well. This means that any ally of the 6 great forces is our enemy. I hope you can understand this, Haley. You'd best sort out your relationship with them as soon as possible. Otherwise, Baluo realm may see fit to remove your branch permanently." Not only was Qianlai's tone cold and indifferent, his words grew harsher and harsher with every line. Frankly, he wasn't really that angry at Spid's earlier mistake. But then, the Sea King Pina decided to show her face. Pina was still one of the 5 Sea Kings, and the Sea Race had declared themselves to be an ally of the 6 great forces sometime earlier. He also had a vague hunch that Pina was at Shattered Ice Realm with the likes of Pei Dahong and Hongju just moments ago. This meant that Spid and Pina were at least the enemy of Baluo realm in name, until they had come to an official agreement with the Qin family. Haley's decision to invite Sea King Pina and Spid over to Baluo realm at this time was terrible to say the least. If Pina and Spid were in any way compromised, if they had secretly built a realm entrance and opened the gates for the 6 great human forces, Baluo realm would have suffered a tremendous blow. "Please sort out your business carefully, Haley," Qianlai declared coldly. "Please leave immediately." Banderas also berated. Haley looked a little white and dazed. It looked like she hadn't expected things to turn out this way. She was aware that Pina's appearance was a little untimely. After all, she was still a Sea King in name. However, Spid was the one who had invited Pina over. Not even she had known until after the fact. Pina, an enemy of the Qin family, had suddenly appeared in Baluo realm after the Qin family had turned down their offer. "We are very sorry to have disturbed you all. We will be leaving right away." It was at this moment Vanessa took the lead by bowing slightly and issuing many apologies. Then, she grabbed Spid's hands and forcefully dragged him away from the place. Sea King Pina also sucked in a deep breath before paying her respects to Qianlai. "This is my mistake. I hope you can forgive me. But please understand that I'd come to you, Baluo realm, and the Qin family in good faith." After that, she gave Haley a pull and went back down the way she'd come. "I really wasn't expecting things to turn out this way." Haley smiled bitterly before letting out a helpless sigh. Then she left the place as well. "What do we do now?" Sea King Pina looked depressed after they had returned to the island. She seemed to have no clue what kind of action they should be taking next. Vanessa was silent as well. Haley, the Sea Race clansman who had stayed in Baluo realm for a long time, sighed. "Offending Qianlai is even more troublesome than offending the Qin family. This is Baluo realm, and the Qin family's influence hadn't yet reached here. But Qianlai, on the other hand, has absolute authority over this place. You've all seen the giant race's attitude just now. They were willing to chase us out anytime if that was Qin Lai's wish. You might not know this, but Tang Yuan, Nivit, Tong Yen, Tyler of the Black Jail race, and the Demon Dragon Barret would have reacted even worse than the giant race. I'm certain that a single notice from Qin Lai would be all it takes to send all Boluo realm races after us, spelling our exile. Haley shook her head slightly. She didn't know what else she could do either. Maybe I shouldn't have come to Boluo realm, Pina said. Everyone fell silent after they had heard this. A long while later, Spid replied helplessly, Boluo realm is one of the safer places you can be compared to other realms. Things would have been worse if we had tried to operate in the seas of other realms. Those three are in charge of those places after all. A pause later, he finally admitted his mistake and said, It's all on me this time. I was the one who underestimated that Qin Lai and screwed things up. Why don't you and Lord Pina leave Boluo realm for now, uncle? Haley hesitated for a moment before continuing. I'll think of a way to deal with Qin Lai. He really isn't a difficult person to talk to. It's just that this time we're definitely in the wrong. We are the ones who haven't thought things through before we went to meet him. If we leave, what about Sister Vanessa? Pina asked. Haley thought for a moment before replying. She should be fine to stay. You should leave Boluo realm first and continue negotiations with the Qin family. Things will only get smoother after you've been acknowledged by the Qin family. We'll think about our next step after that. In the short term, Boluo realm is still the safest refuge, so I'm sure no harm will come to Vanessa. I guess that's all we can do. We're counting on you, Haley, Spid said helplessly. After that, Spid had a brief conversation with Vanessa before leaving Boluo realm with Pina in a hurry. Spid dared not underestimate Qin Lai any longer after being schooled on the depth of his power. Some time after Spid and Pina had left, Vanessa said suddenly, I'll go find him. Haley was caught off guard. You mean Qin Lai? Vanessa nodded slightly. I know he needs me. Haley frowned before a complicated expression overtook her features. You're planning to... She seemed to have figured out something. He needs me to humiliate Han Qian, and to be frank, I wish to see my good daughter myself. Vanessa uttered through gritted teeth. How was your life in the Han family? Haley asked curiously. It was like a second nightmare. Vanessa replied with a dark look on her face. Haley was dumbfounded by her answer, but before she could prod deeper, Vanessa suddenly vanished from her sight. All Haley saw was a blurry rainbow light heading towards the giant race's territory. Meanwhile, Qin Lai was just about to open Star Door and leave after he was done talking with Banderas and Campbell. Suddenly, he felt Vanessa's presence closing in. Banderas and Campbell's face turned cold at the same time. It was clear that they had sensed Vanessa too and really gotten angry this time. It's fine. But Qin Lai waved them down and stopped creating the Star Door. He then flew out of the forest, left the giant race's territory and sped towards Seven Spirits Islands. Behind him, Vanessa's presence grew clearer and clearer. A while later, he stopped on top of another forest and landed on the top of an ancient tree. Swoosh! A ray of rainbow reached him, and Vanessa suddenly came into view. Because Vanessa had been pushing her bloodline a little too much to catch up to Qin Lai, her face looked red and charming. What are you doing here? Qin Lai asked indifferently. You are the one who saved my life. Without you, I would have died at Anya's hands a long time ago. Vanessa kept her head bowed. I know that you saved me because you wanted to use me to humiliate Han Qian, and I am willing to help you achieve your objective. If you're trying to change my mind on behalf of your father and Haley, I'm telling you that you're wasting your time. Qin Lai replied coldly. No, that's not it. Vanessa looked up and stared Qin Lai directly in the eye. Spid may be my father, but he's part of the reason I had gone through so much hardship when I was younger. Moreover, he wasn't the one who had brought me up. Not to mention that I'd cut the guy who did bring me up into countless pieces with my own hands. Naturally, Qin Lai was privy to her sorrowful past. He asked, What are you trying to say? He may be my father, but he and I don't share a deep relationship with each other. I will not go against my own will for him, Vanessa explained. You're saying that you'd be happy to humiliate Han Qian? Qin Lai was starting to understand her meaning. Vanessa nodded. But she's your daughter. Qin Lai looked surprised. Daughter? Vanessa gave him a chilly smile. She and Han Lei had never treated me as family. The entire Han family thinks of me as nothing more but a birthing tool. The Han family you slaughtered, the Sea Race clansmen you killed in Blue Snake Sea, they're people I had hoped to kill even in my dreams. Qin Lai stared at her deeply before falling silent for a moment. Finally, he said, All right, then you may come with me. Are you going right now? Vanessa was caught off guard. Amen. Your daughter is waiting for me to surrender my life at Rock Calamity Domain. You know? Qin Lai said mockingly. After that, he activated his demon spirit of space and time bloodline and finally created the star door. Let's go. Qin Lai passed through to the other side first. Vanessa didn't hesitate even a bit. She slipped through the portal right after him. A Chaos Star realm. Qin Lai and Vanessa flew out of the star door and landed on the foot of a dormant volcano. Hua Yuqi and Qin Lai's Dark Soul Beast avatar had been waiting for them for some time already. Hua Yuqi wasn't surprised to see another Qin Lai because Miao Yitzi had told him that the one beside him was a Dark Soul Beast avatar. But he was absolutely stunned to see Vanessa. He pointed a finger at her while screaming, You are. He had studied the Han family quite a bit in order to attack Han Qian. Naturally, he recognized that the beautiful, dignified-looking woman before him was none other than Han Qian's birth mother. That was why he was shocked to see Qin Lai bringing this woman along. Whoosh whoosh. The second his true self had arrived, Qin Lai's soul beast avatar immediately started swelling. Vanessa stared at the soul beast avatar curiously as it turned into a terrifying, sinister-looking beast. Despite knowing the truth, Hua Yuqi couldn't help but turn pale with shock when he saw the Dark Soul Beast's true form. He subconsciously moved away from the Dark Soul Beast and stood quietly next to Qin Lai. It looked like he felt safer by his brother's side. Qin Lai calmly stared at the round-shaped, vault-like teleportation formation at the foot of the volcano. This was Chaos Star Realm, a small realm belonging to Skymender Palace. It was one of the realms that was close to Rock Calamity Domain. A long time ago, before Rock Calamity Domain had fallen to Ninth Heaven, and Chaos Star Realm was a masterless domain, the two realms had interacted with each other frequently. However, after Rock Calamity Domain had fallen to Ninth Heaven, the smaller races of Chaos Star Realm had destroyed the teleportation formation in fear that Ninth Heaven would discover their home through the formation. Unfortunately, Skymender Palace's martial practitioners eventually invaded Chaos Star Realm anyway and turned it into part of Ninth Heaven's Outer Realm territory. Because the teleportation formation was destroyed, Rock Calamity Domain and Chaos Star Realm had lost all contact with each other. Chaos Star Realm belonged to Skymender Palace, whereas Rock Calamity Domain belonged to Ninth Heaven. Since both forces had come to a tacit agreement with one another, Skymender Palace didn't try to repair the old teleportation formation. A long time ago, Hua Yuqi tried to travel to Rock Calamity Domain through this teleportation formation. He failed because the teleportation formation was destroyed. It wasn't until he purchased enough materials and requested the aid of an expert that he finally managed to reconstruct the formation. The reason Miao Yitzi caught wind of his business was because she was a true master of spatial laws. The person Hua Yuqi had requested to repair the teleportation formation had come to Miao Yitzi frequently to inquire her expertise. That was how she had learned about this. After she had sent someone to spy on Rock Calamity Domain in secret, she learned that the enemy had been doing something similar as well. She immediately realized that Han Qian had discovered Hua Yuqi's petty meddling and was preparing countermeasures in secret to later lay an ambush on them. That was why she had stopped Qin Lai and Hua Yuqi and informed them of the danger waiting for them. She wanted them to treat this matter seriously. But Qin Lai had still decided to visit Rock Calamity Domain, despite knowing that a Genesis Realm expert might be waiting for him on the other side of the teleportation formation. It was because he was confident that he was strong enough to deal with any tricky scheme Han Qian might have pulled. Qin Lai kept sending out soul messages as he kept the star door opened next to him. Swoosh swoosh. Not long after, multiple figures flew out of the storor in succession and stood respectfully next to Qin Lai. Master! The 11 newcomers saluted Qin Lai one after another. They were the Azura race clansmen led by Curtis, and everyone was a Void Realm expert. In fact, 4 of them were late-stage Void Realm martial practitioners with 6-level soul altars. They called him Master. Vanessa's expression changed as her eyes glinted with surprise. If Curtis's group was serving under the Qin family, then they should be addressing Qin Lai as the young master, not master. The 2 titles were vastly different from one another. Only those who were completely loyal or had offered a portion of their soul origin would call the other person their master. This meant that Curtis's group probably didn't serve under the Qin family, because Vanessa knew that the Qin family normally didn't deal their foreign delegates in such an extreme fashion. This was without mentioning that Curtis and his people were members of the Azura race. Vanessa started guessing that the Azura race experts were people Qin Lai had subdued to his rule. Her surprise grew even bigger when she had arrived at the conclusion. Her knowledge regarding Qin Lai's abilities had been refreshed once more. Suddenly, a roar suddenly came through the star door. Then, the lizard progenitor's giant figure came to view as well. Master! The lizard progenitor greeted Qin Lai loudly. Vanessa was stunned yet again. The lizard progenitor was clearly a rank 10 bloodline warrior. She had no doubt in her mind that the giant lizard in front of her was none other than the progenitor of the lizard race. She had heard of this particular giant lizard's existence and strength since a long time ago. However, even the lizard progenitor had addressed Qin Lai as his own master. This only served to prove her suspicions even more. Not even the Qin family had the power to force a rank 10 bloodline warrior like the lizard progenitor to submit to them. It was absolutely impossible. This meant that Qin Lai must have forced the lizard progenitor into submission through another way. That was proof of Qin Lai's abilities as well. Master, should we? Curtis asked. At the Frost Desolation Abyss, Miao Fengtian and his many powerful corpse demons waited for their turn. All Qin Lai needed to do was to send out a thought, and they would emerge from the star door at his command. If these completely alien corpse demons were to show up in Rock Calamity Domain, they would surely shock every race in Spirit Realm. There's no need. Qin Lai shook his head. Not yet, at least. Oh, Curtis wisely stopped there. It's almost time. Qin Lai grinned at Hua Yuqi while looking at the arch-shaped teleportation formation. I'm heading over. Hua Yuqi sucked in a deep breath before lifting his chest. Let me go first. 11 Void Realm experts, a rank 10 lizard progenitor and a massive reservoir of power not yet shown. All these factors had given Hua Yuqi a boost of confidence. It made him believe that they could make that gamble even if Han Qian was luring them into a trap. He was suddenly filled with confidence towards Qin Lai. Before Qin Lai could change his mind, Hua Yuqi laughed courageously and charged towards the teleportation first. Han Qian is most likely waiting for you to show up, so she won't show herself immediately if she sees me coming through the teleportation formation first. She'll only execute her plan after you'd entered Rock Calamity Domain. Therefore, I should go over to the other side before you. After then, Hua Yuqi transformed into a beam of light and vanished into the teleportation formation. Qin Lai smiled faintly before turning to look at Curtis' group. His Azura races nodded understandingly before charging through the teleportation formation as well. His soul beast avatar was the next to go after the Azura races, growling before passing through the teleportation formation as a beam of light. What about me? The lizard progenitor asked. You should go too. He smiled. The lizard progenitor waited for a moment before flying through the teleportation formation. Qin Lai then turned his attention to Vanessa. He narrowed his eyes and examined her from head to toe. He couldn't help himself from praising her in his mind. The woman before him was dressed in a long blue dress. Her transformed legs were slender but meaty, and her thin waist supported a pair of large, wholesome breasts. Every time she blinked, her infinite charm shone through like she was glowing. Han Qian was clearly young and immature compared to her. Vanessa was like a fully matured honey peach, whose blink and smile were filled with seduction. What's wrong? Vanessa smiled before twirling once on her feet to give Qin Lai a full display of her wonderful body. "How do you want me to cooperate with you?" Qin Lai fell silent. Although he had wanted to use her since the moment he learned of her identity, he actually didn't have a clue how to execute his humiliation plan. As his understanding of Vanessa deepened further, and after he learned that this woman had had a nightmarish past, his initial resolve was even starting to waver. In fact, he wouldn't have forced Vanessa to come over if she hadn't made the request herself. "I don't have any good ideas," he admitted honestly. "I see." Vanessa's eyes sparkled before she gave him a beautiful smile. "Just leave it to me." Qin Lai was surprised by her reaction. "No one knows a woman better than another woman. I think I know best how to make my good daughter suffer." Vanessa sneered. "All right." Qin Lai nodded lightly. Meanwhile, at a mountain range in Rock Calamity Domain, there was a giant rock cave hidden in the middle of a mountain. Inside the rock cave, a shabby-looking teleportation formation suddenly flashed before Hua Yuqi, Curtis, and the rest of the Azura race clansmen appeared. The Dark Soul Beast avatar let out an earth-shaking roar that caught everyone's attention the moment it passed through the teleportation formation and charged out of the rock cave. Bang! Suddenly, the teleportation formation exploded while the lizard progenitor was still inside. "Oh no!" Hua Yuqi's expression changed drastically as he stared at the wreckage. "Damn it! That bitch had tampered with the teleportation formation. She made it so that any rank 10 Bloodline warrior or Genesis Realm martial practitioner would trigger an explosion the moment they tried to come through. What should we do now?" Hua Yuqi looked at Curtis urgently, but the Azura race looked perfectly calm. "There's no need for worry. The teleportation formation had exploded while the lizard progenitor was coming through. Right now, he may be floating in some unknown galaxy or trapped in one of those terrifying spatial gaps." Hua Yuqi was nowhere as calm as he was. Even if it was a rank 10 Bloodline warrior, it wasn't well-versed in the secret arts of space. Probably couldn't find its way back to Spirit Realm, right? "How can I not worry? He'll return to the Master's side," Curtis explained in an indifferent tone. His answer surprised Hua Yuqi. At the same time, Qin Lai, who was speaking with Vanessa, turned to stare at the destroyed teleportation formation before letting out a cold snort. She truly is a devious woman. The rank 10 lizard progenitor had suddenly lost his direction just as he was about to enter Rock Calamity Domain. The lizard progenitor was dragged into some unknown chaotic streams of space an instant later, and countless alien lights suddenly attacked its body. Star Door abruptly opened right next to the lizard progenitor. At first, the lizard progenitor thought that he was certainly dead. Even now, its flesh was being cut apart by the unknown light. However, the Star Door's appearance had shocked him greatly. It immediately understood that Qin Lai could summon him back to his side, even while he was trapped in the outer realm's chaotic streams of space. It was an incredibly rare and wonderful ability. Swoosh! The lizard progenitor's giant, bloodied body quickly emerged from the Star Door. The giant lizard bared its teeth in pain while swearing loudly. "Those damned bastards! They'd prepared a trap that specifically targets rank 10 Bloodline warriors or Genesis Realm human experts only. If more Genesis Realm experts or rank 10 foreign experts had passed through the teleportation formation with the lizard progenitor, they would have been met with the exact same fate. Many of them might have been cut apart by the light just like the lizard progenitor. These strange chaotic streams of space didn't belong to Spirit Realm, and they didn't carry any world spirit energy that the lizard progenitor could borrow. The lizard progenitor fell into infinite despair when thrown into that chaotic space. With no source of power to fuel his regeneration and restore his powers, it was only a matter of time before he was cut into pieces. Any other rank 10 Bloodline warrior or Genesis Realm martial practitioner would probably have been met with the same ending. They would have been cut into bloody bubbles and annihilated from the world. But because the lizard progenitor was connected with Qin Lai by the soul, and because Qin Lai had the Bloodline ability Star Door, it was ultimately able to escape certain death. "If not for you, I fear I would not have come back alive." The lizard progenitor's eyes flashed with savage light as he shouted angrily, "Those Rock Calamity Domain people are too evil. If I find them, I will tear them to pieces." He was truly angry. while he had just stayed for only an instant in the mysterious chaotic streams of space. He was covered in countless wounds. They looked as if he had been wounded by thousands of small daggers. Some cuts even reached the bones. The lizard progenitor said with lingering fear, "I just stayed a few seconds in that ghastly place, but it felt like centuries." His eyes were filled with fear. "Are you all right?" Qianlai asked. "I'm not seriously wounded." As he spoke, the lizard progenitor waved his enormous claws. He got a piece of meat out of somewhere and shoved it into his mouth, blood spraying out as he chewed, and said indistinctly, "Just flesh wounds. Lucky, I was really lucky. However, I fear if I stayed a moment longer in that place, I would not be able to participate in the fight for Rock Calamity Domain." The stars were filled with many unknown dangers. Even the rank 10 bloodline lizard progenitor did not guarantee he would be completely safe when roaming about the endless void. There were mysterious spatial rifts, forbidden zones, and remote areas filled with chaotic, unstable patches of space. The lizard progenitor knew this. The reason he had been able to come back alive this time was because Qianlai had the bloodline of the demon spirit of space and time. He knew it was only thanks to Qianlai that he was still in fighting condition. He felt even more afraid the more he thought about it. "Do not worry." Qianlai smiled and said coolly, "I heard there is a human Genesis realm in Rock Calamity Domain. After a while, we will go together and kill that Genesis realm expert. I will give you his flesh and blood to eat and make up for what you used right now." At these words, the lizard progenitor's eyes lit up. He said hurriedly, "What are we waiting for? No hurry, the person of concern is about to appear soon." Qianlai smiled. Vanessa had a strange expression. She had no understanding of the demon spirit of space and time bloodline's latent ability. She did not know that the star door they came through was formed by Qianlai using his bloodline. She thought it was a realm entrance. She was shocked to see Qianlai pulling the lizard progenitor back from among the stars so effortlessly. Right now, as the teleportation formation in front of them and the one in Rock Calamity Domain were destroyed together, she thought the plan had failed. But from Qianlai's expression and the confidence in his voice, he could enter Rock Calamity Domain again at any time. Vanessa was shocked and confused. The earlier feeling she had grew stronger. This Qianlai, even with his seemingly low cultivation and rank 8 bloodline, was full of mysteries. Her eyes filled with light and curiosity as she looked at Qianlai. Rock Calamity Domain. Wuxia, Curtis, and the other flew out of the cavern where the teleportation formation had exploded. They stood among the chain of bare mountains and listened to the dark soul beast avatar howl in the air. They knew that when the teleportation formation shattered, Han Qian and the person waiting for them in Rock Calamity Domain should appear. They weren't wrong. Wuxia did not have to wait long. A glowing flying spirit artifact flew over like a phoenix, Han Qian slowly coming into view atop. She frowned and looked coldly at Wuxia. Not disguising her dislike, she said with a dark expression, "It's just you." Her body suddenly shook. She balled her fists tightly, her fingernails cutting into her palm and bleeding. Her eyes turned sharp and mad. Looking at her vicious state, Wuxia's expression changed slightly. He seemed to be intimidated by her presence and forgot to answer. Han Qian continued to breathe deeply to calm herself and recover her wits. When she learned Wuxia had secretly bought special materials and invited an artificer skilled in teleportation formations to Chaos Star Realm, she guessed Wuxia's intentions. She went along with the plan and secretly arranged for people to fix the damaged teleportation formation in Rock Calamity Domain. Then, she used her connections and invited strong reinforcements. She guessed that Qianlai would come with Wuxia, but the teleportation formation exploded. This meant that a Genesis realm, or a rank 10 bloodline foreign race clansman was buried in the outer space. However, there was no trace of Qianlai. She felt extremely disappointed. In her eyes, Wuxia alone was not worth her putting in so much energy to go and invite experts there. She had sacrificed many benefits and even made some shameful promises to invite a Genesis realm expert. This was because Ninth Heaven temporarily did not want to burn ties with the Qin family and wanted to watch and wait. She knew it was difficult to invite the Genesis realm experts of Ninth Heaven at this time, so she went to find reinforcements on her own. She had planned all this, and made great sacrifices to defeat Qin Lai. To that murderer who had killed the Han family, her father, and her younger brother. To kill Qin Lai, she could give up anything, even all the glory and benefits she had gotten until that point, including giving up her body after the matter was finished and serving that Genesis realm expert for a month. All of this was for Qin Lai and not Hua Yuqi. Due to this, when she saw Hua Yuqi and not Qin Lai, she almost went crazy. He's Qin Lai. An old man with a thin and yellow face slowly flew out of the phoenix-shaped flying spirit artifact. Whoosh! A 7-level water soul altar flew out of the old man's forehead and displayed his Genesis realm cultivation. He sat on the 7-level soul altar, his dark gaze on Hua Yuqi. He suddenly frowned. His cultivation doesn't seem to match. He is not Qin Lai. Han Qian bit her lips and used the pain to calm herself. Then she turned around and smiled, saying, Qin Lai appears to not have come this time. Elder Huang, this time, I will not trouble you to act. It'd be best if I didn't. Huang Miao snickered, his lusty gaze roaming around Han Qian's body. However, since I have come, we must realize the agreement between us. You also know that this past century I've been preparing materials for creating the 8th level of my soul altar. Due to your matter, I put down what I was doing and came from afar to Rock Calamity Domain. If I obtained nothing, how much effort and time would I have wasted? Han Qian felt cold all over under his gaze. She felt as though the tongue of a venomous snake was licking at her. Han Qian's smile appeared more forced. She said timidly, I can repay you in other ways. For example, the materials you need. Huang Miao shook his head, his expression turning cold. He said emotionlessly, just our agreement. Han Qian still wanted to speak. Huang Miao narrowed his eyes and said abruptly, You know my temper. Han Qian felt cold, her eyes filling with terror, and she went silent. She turned around, took a deep breath, and stared viciously at Hua Yuqi, Curtis, and the others. She said, Then I will trouble Elder Huang to act and kill all these people present. She vented her anger on Hua Yuqi and the others. Huang Miao laughed strangely. He turned and looked at the other Void Realm martial practitioners that Han Qian had invited, saying, Just watch. Those people knew they were not a match for him. Seeing him monopolize all opponents, they could only nod. Remember, a month. Huang Miao laughed at Han Qian. Han Qian gritted her teeth and nodded. A woo! Qin Lai's dark soul beast avatar suddenly howled into the sky, the deep eyes showing disdain. Above the dark soul beast's head, a star door suddenly formed. Qin Lai and Vanessa came out together. Qin Lai deliberately left the lizard progenitor in Chaos Star Realm. Han Qian's expression became dazed. Qin Lai suddenly appeared holding the hand of her birth month Vanessa. This strange scene caused her to temporarily fall into a daze. She did not understand the situation.